Peace, peace, peace. What it is your brother Tyvon Sueno, aka the Orthodox Moor, wishing you all peace and blessings. Been looking forward to this for a minute. And shout out to my man Abu in the chat. I know he has been too. Salam alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. This is going to be a debate and a review going over the debate between Dante and Vocab going over the 400 years. I'm going to let the whole debate play before I give my commentary on it, which will be after the debate. I don't like when people stop halfway through people's rounds or whatnot. I'm like, Yeshua, don't talk through my round. You know what I'm saying? But with that, family, I'm going to mute myself. I'm going to share my screen. I'm going to play the debate in its entirety. Then I will get into my commentary. I'll look forward to the comments in the comment section, in the chat or whatnot. We'll kind of do like an informal little Q&A with it because they weren't really able to do it in the debate the first time. But yeah, I know a lot of people have seen this debate a couple of times. Baran showed it, Vocab's replayed it. But before I get my recap, I want people to have it fresh in their minds as to what they're seeing and whatnot. So with that, family, I'm going to share screen and call it a day.
Click the right. I'm going to check that out in 1 second, Sister E. I'm going to check that out in 1 second. Grace and peace be unto you from God the Father and our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. I'm going to give everyone some time to come in here. And we want to have a good evening. This is some serious stuff that we're dealing with today, with some stuff that's been long waited. Let me see if I can get my sister on here. I'll try to figure that out in a minute. You said you are already? Okay, just 1 second. Let me see if I click. All right, grace and peace, everybody. We are going to start a debate today, a discussion. I don't even like to use the word debate, but a lot of information is going to come out. We have Vocab Malone and you all that's involved in this whole awakening thing. Y'all know who Vocab is. I'm introducing Vocab specifically first, so y'all can for those of y'all that don't know him, I'm gonna let him come on and say who he is. It's hard to say if anybody don't know him. And then I'm going to introduce this other brother. A lot's riding on the line right now. And I think Minister Dante is one of the best people to share this information. He's put out a lot of work. Shout out to Tell You Ministries and Pastor Kelly, Pastor Majors, a lot of people that's been out here. Salute Stephen Darby Ministries and a lot of individuals that's been out here putting in this work and what some urban apologists might call moderates, or I would just address as my messianic brothers and sisters. And Vocab Malone has been on the scene for a good while now, discussing the subject of Hebrew Israelites in Christian circles the world over. And I'm going to let him come to the microphone and introduce himself. And then on Minister Dante, I want him to introduce himself. We're going to talk about what we expect from them. I'm going to lay the rules down. And come on, Vocab, come to the microphone, brother.
What's going on? My name is Vocab, Phoenix, Arizona. Glad to be here.
Okay, you want to say a little bit more about yourself?
I do Christian apologetics. I've been doing it for a while. Started off doing street stuff and then transitioned, still keeping that over to radio and blogging. And eventually, like past 4 or 5 years, utilizing video as well. And it's kind of just what I do. And got stuff up on social media at Vocab Malone and at Street Apologist, and then youtube.com/Vocab Malone is where I do a lot of stuff. That's it.
All right, good. I'm gonna mute you right now. We glad you come on. A lot of people want to come on a platform because they feel a certain way, but we really appreciate you coming on and doing what you're going to do. Minister Dante, come on, Minister. Come to the microphone and act like I don't know you. Tell us about yourself, and we'll get into the rules. Come on, sir. You got the microphone.
All right, can you guys hear me now?
Yes, sir.
All right, so those of you that don't know me, I am Dante Fortson, known to some of you guys as Minister Dante. Started doing Christian apologetics back when I was 17, just kind of in high school sort of thing, and then I continued on. Some of you guys have been around since 2009, when I really got heavy into it, and I was traveling in the circles of L.A. Marzulli, Rob Skiba, Steve Quayle, Chuck Missler before he passed, Grant Jeffrey. As a lot of you guys heard the conversations that I was having over the last decade or so. And a lot of that changed when I started talking about the history of Israel. A lot of those guys warned me not to touch Israel. And that's something I can say from inside of those circles. They didn't want me to touch the history of who true Israel was. And so once I started doing that, a lot of them backed away. I had over 30,000 followers or subscribers at the time. That dropped down to about 5,000. And so I started to rebuild. So yeah, that's pretty much my background. You guys can see all my research. I just share what I find on blackhistoryinthebible.com and my YouTube channel.
Okay, and we're so glad to have you. All right, I'm gonna read a little bit of stuff. We're gonna try to definitely keep it respectful. I ask a few things that I think y'all do have that ability, but I do not want anyone to unmute their microphones. We're gonna save the questions for last. I'm gonna try to see if I can pull some in, if y'all don't mind, even from the audience, that I can pop them up on the screen as we go later on in. But in the beginning, we're gonna have some opening statements, and with the opening statements, those are gonna be 12 minutes each. And there'll be a 10-minute rebuttal after that. In the second round of rebuttals, those will be 8 minutes each. And in the third round will be 8 minutes. And there'll be a 10-minute cross-examined section that y'all can bring your questions out and whatever you've heard from the other individual. Each person has prepared several questions. I believe both of y'all have some questions for each other. Due to the time constraint, the maximum amount of time to answer the question will be 1 minute. Maybe we can go to 90 seconds. I don't have a timer up, but I'll be fair. Sister E, the timer. You can, others, when I say begin, I'll hit my timer with a mouth of 2 or 3 witnesses. Some other people can have timers also. And we'll try to be fair with that. We're asking you to try not to go over 1 minute, maybe 90 seconds when you deal with certain things. Once you go over the 1 minute mark, you will hear the sound of the buzzer. We'll let you know specifically that you're over and you should begin to be wrapping up your last statement. No foul language, no talking about nobody mama, no disrespect, what somebody look like, ad hominems, anything of that nature. If you can't say it in a daycare with kindergarten kids, we don't want to say it right here. Amen. And who want to go first? I'm going to say that. I know what Sister E said. I know what we discussed. Who wants to go first?
He can go first. He challenged me. Let him go first.
Very good. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. I didn't want, because if I would have said that, they were like, all right, Bernie, you already started. Come on, Vocab Malone. You have the floor. And hold on, let me get here, because I don't want Sister E saying I'm being extra with it. Let me get the timer out. And you got, if you want to share a screen or something, you have 12 minutes beginning right now, sir.
All right, thank you. 2 Peter chapter 2, verses 1 through 3 reads, "But false prophets also arose among the people, just as there will be false teachers among you, who will secretly bring in destructive heresies, even denying the master who bought them, bringing upon themselves swift destruction. And many will follow their sensuality, and because of them the way of the truth will be blasphemed. And in their greed they will exploit you with false words." Notice the 3 times the word false was used here. Pseudo-prophetess, false prophets. Pseudo-didaskalos, false teachers. Plastos logos, false words. Now let me tell you a tale about a modern day false teacher who made false prophecies and uttered false words. Harold Camping. Popular radio host Harold Camping predicted Judgment Day was September 6, 1994. It failed. He revised it to September 29th and then yet again to October 2nd. None of those dates worked out. In 2005, Camping predicted the rapture would happen on May 21st, 2011, culminating in the final destruction on October 21st. Camping's predictions were everywhere. Stickers, signs, radio, news, media. I personally saw vehicle wraparounds, billboards announcing the date, but the days came and went. Camping suffered a stroke in June and went to semi-retired status by October of that year. Camping later admitted he was wrong and his critics had been right, even saying his date setting had been, quote, sinful. He even recognized Jesus' warnings, like in Mark 13:32, quote, concerning that day or that hour no one knows, were legit and to be heeded. Camping's media ministry, Family Radio, suffered massive losses after his multiple failed predictions, and Camping himself died December 2013. Camping's life is a disturbing and harrowing tale of a seemingly well-meaning man who started off teaching simple Bible study lessons at his local church and wound up becoming a notorious false prophet, much like Dante Fortson. True, Fortson is not as explicit and forthright, some may even say honest, as Camping was, but unless he repents of his false teaching, like Camping before him, Fortson deserves to be marked off as a false teacher and viewed via the lens of Matthew 7:15. Beware false prophets who come to you in sheep's clothing, but inwardly are ravenous wolves. Here's why I say that. Firstly, it's important to remember that Mr. Fortson touts himself as an excellent Bible teacher, especially in the area of eschatology. Hear this promo for Dante's 2010 book, As the Days of Noah Were, subtitled The Sons of God and the Coming Apocalypse. The blurb says it, quote, is a must-have for anyone that is serious about studying end-times Bible prophecy. A must-have, if you're serious, for studying end-time Bible prophecy. Well, let's go to Mr. Fortson's website and see what his statement of faith has to say about prophecy. Quote, I believe that prophecy is a result of people being moved by the Holy Spirit. However, I do not endorse any modern-day prophets, and I encourage you to test their spirit before you endorse or follow them. And I believe that there are many prophecies still to be fulfilled. Let's take a look at that first statement. I do not endorse any modern-day prophets. This is the key to Dante Fortson's downfall, because he may not endorse any modern-day prophets, but he certainly does endorse modern-day false prophets. Who? The gentlemen who run the End of the World Ministries, sometimes called Teo. The gentlemen at Teo are clearly false prophets, probably worse than Mr. Fortson himself, and yet he continually appears on their platforms and interviews them. When he interviews them, he'll ask them a question about prophecy. After they respond, Dante will say, excellent response, or that's a great answer. The men at Teo are bolder than Dante in their predictions, whereas Mr. Fortson often tries to get by on prophesying via innuendo and caveat, and is therefore sometimes trickier to pin down. It's a little easier for the average person to understand the false claims of Teo. Mr. Fortson knows about Teo's tendency to jump the gun, and he exploits them for it. He lets them fill in the blanks he intentionally leaves open, agrees with what they express, but allows himself just enough wiggle room for what the CIA calls plausible deniability. It's like with John Gotti. Gotti ran the Gambino crime family from 85 to 98. He earned the nickname Teflon Don because the government could never get any charges to stick. One reason for this was because he had his captains, associates, and soldiers do all his dirty work. Gotti, though, was finally indicted in 92 and died 10 years later. Mr. Fortson is akin to the Teflon Don, John Gotti. Why? He lets people like Teo Ministries do all the heavy lifting regarding making false predictions, but he will often give his assent, an expression of approval, to what they say. Indeed, Mr. Fortson will link to their videos, adding his own commentary. In short, Mr. Dante Fortson stands guilty of promoting the false 400-year prophecy, but tonight is indictment time. No more Teflon Dante. I mean, just listen to some of these titles of Teo Ministries' 7 videos. Listen to 400 years and all hell breaks loose. But we were wrong, though. The 400-year picture puzzle, false prophecy or blind UA followers. 400 years served or in the final stretch, like a time in prison. Why I believe the 400 years prophecy applies to this captivity. Gaslighting, Israel under our 400-year spell. The ignorance of the 400-year haters. The 400-year prophecy. What does the family expect to happen? Notice how it switched. All of a sudden, it's what did the family expect, even though they're the ones making the prediction. Of course, Dante also has his own videos on the subject, such as the 400-year prophecy, fact versus failure, 2019 year-end review. That's important. Remember that title. 400 Years of Judgment and the Fall of America. I'm going to quote from that one later. Reply, the false 400-year Hebrew Israelite prophecy. And he has books. The Black Hebrew Awakening, the final 400 years as slaves in America. Notice the subtitle. Ask yourself, What does the word final mean? Merriam-Webster defines it as, quote, coming at the end, being the last in a series, process, or progress. Additionally, Mr. Fortson quotes Genesis 15:13-14 in the Amazon description of his book, which I read now. And he said unto Abram, know of a surety that thy seed shall be a stranger in a land that is not theirs, and shall serve them, and they shall afflict them 400 years. And also, that nation whom they shall serve will I judge, and afterward shall they come out with great substance. Mr. Fortson quoting Genesis 15:13-14 in relation to a book subtitled The Final 400 Years as Slaves in America is extremely significant. We may return to this later. But now let's look at some of Mr. Fortson's blog titles. 400 years, time is almost up. Here he linked to Pastor Omar's sermon of the same title, but Mr. Fortson's commentary for the link here reads this way. Listen to this. Pastor Omar covers the 400 years of captivity, which are coming to an end in 2019. Notice he wrote the 400 years of captivity, which are coming to an end in 2019. Additionally, he quotes Genesis 15:13-14 yet again. Mr. Fortson's commentary is significant when he links to these posts. Here's what he said in a January 12, 2020 post. Did the 400-year prophecy actually fail? Or is that the narrative those that are too lazy to research would like us to believe? Was there a shift in attitude towards true Israel, or did everything stay the same in 2019? Those that assume nothing changed often have not looked at the actual evidence and make assumptions based on what they choose to believe and not what's actually written in the Bible. As a result, they have made false claims and have misled many into believing that the 400-year prophecy failed. But that couldn't be further from the truth. We're going to review some of the events of 2019 so you can judge for yourself. Looking over some of his Facebook posts, here's what we find in August 11, 2018. Is the world beginning to experience plagues similar to those in Egypt just before the Exodus? It's important to understand these guys believe in a second Exodus. This is yet another example where Mr. Fortson has promoted the work of Teo. Bit by bit, we start to see a fuller picture emerge. One of the most damning examples of this was when Mr. Fortson interviewed Teo in episode 4 of Epic Israelite Builds. Let's listen in at the 34-minute and 55-second mark. I quote verbatim, Dante, so when do you guys believe the 400 years were up? And what did you guys would teach that would happen after that 400 years was up? Teo Ministries, I believe it's Yaakov speaking. Okay, so initially, when I first started teaching it, it was 1619 to 2019, which is the end of the 400 years. But remember, so then I, like probably 2 months before the end of that, I changed to the fact that we had to keep that final captivity, right? It's sort of like a birthday, okay? My birthday has arrived, but yeah, I was 19, but now I'm 20. I'm 20 for that whole year, right? You have to do that final year of captivity. So in essence, you have to complete the final year, which in my opinion ended August 28th, 2020. And so that's what I said that, at the time of the 400 years should be up at that time. Now, some people are going to say, well, how come we're still here? You say we're not. We're going to be gone. I never said we're going to be gone. I said that the final captivity happens August 28, 2020. Whatever that means, I don't know, but I said that's when it ends. Now, I said, based upon what we see prophetically, the sign that's occurring, right? We should be about to leave because there's the second Exodus. And listen to this last part of his sentence. I don't never set dates. Always give a caveat. You can watch every one of my videos. I never set a date, end quote. Did you catch that? This man tells us he never sets dates right after he set the date of August 28, 2020, which was changed from August 2019, the prior year. And Mr. Fortson is co-signing this? To prove tonight that Mr. Fortson is not guilty of promoting the false 400-year prophecy, he must do one of two things. Number one, prove he never promoted the prophecy, or number two, prove the prophecy has been fulfilled the way he and his associates he promotes said it would be. Now, let me make a little prediction of my own. Mr. Dante Fortson will fail tonight to do either of those things. If Mr. Fortson fails to either prove he never promoted the 400-year prophecy or that it was filled in 2019, we can safely say that Dante Fortson actually fulfills one of the prophecies by the Apostle Paul in 2 Timothy 4, 3-4. The time is coming when people will not endure sound teaching, but having itching ears, they will accumulate for themselves teachers to suit their own passions and will turn away from listening to the truth and wander off into myths. Paul said the time was coming. The time is now. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Minister Dante, are you prepared? Are you to the microphone?
I'm ready. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I'm going to start the timer all over. Let me see if I can reset this right now, and you can begin.
That was awesome commentary. Shout out to Vocab Malone for that movie trailer right there. Now, as you guys heard him say, he read the verse about false prophets, false teachers, false words. What he's not telling you, and this is the problem, is he doesn't give you the full story of the full context. When he started calling me a false prophet, it was because I shared Pastor Omar's video. He doesn't tell you that I shared Pastor Omar's video. He also doesn't tell you that a lot of the text on there that you see on my site is copy descriptions from the videos themselves. Now, Vocab is calling that the same as making a prophecy by sharing a video. So if that's the case, anytime any of you share a video from Facebook or anywhere else, you're making a prophecy by Vocab standard. Now, he started claiming that the words I said failed before 2019 was up, which tells you he didn't actually read my book. That's why a lot of you who've actually read my stuff and are familiar with what I teach, you know that was a lie. Now, Vocab consistently lies about what I believe. Teo Ministries has been consistent in what they teach. Now, I can't speak for Teo Ministries, but notice how that's what Vocab kept talking about. Teo Ministries, not Dante Fortson did. He claims that I let Teo Ministries make prophecies, and I allow Teo Ministries to say what they say. Teo Ministries are grown men. They can speak for themselves, but Vocab does what he always does. He drags other people into it. He dragged in Harold Camping, John Gotti. He tagged in Teo Ministries, but I do like the name Teflon Dante. I might keep that. So anyway, I said that to say this. All of this nonsense right now is a distraction. Vocab Malone wants to distract everybody from the fact that his racist friends, Jeff Durbin and James White, attacked Bishop Eric Mason, and Vocab won't stand up for him. So what does he do? He turns around and he goes at Brother Muhammad for saying that Eric Mason took white Jewish money. What does Damon Richardson do? They go after Berean. Nobody's going after these white guys that attacked Bishop Eric Mason. But who stood up for Bishop Eric Mason? Myself and Pastor Kelly Richardson. And that probably bothers Vocab. Now, this discussion can't be had without first establishing who true Israel is. And I think that's part of the problem. Vocab never wants to talk about who true Israel is. Well, you can't figure out who to apply the prophecies to unless you figure out who true Israel is. So I'm going to be giving you guys a ton of evidence and a ton of sources, which you can find on blackhistoryinthebible.com. They will be posted afterwards. They will be in the post that's up there right now for the debate. I will add them to the bottom underneath the video. So now, I know you guys think I might be going off topic with this, but I just wanted to bring attention to the fact that this is all a distraction, and the only reason he wanted to debate me was to take his eyes off of that. So now, who are the true Israelites? This is important because the urban apologists have tried to control the information. They want to tell you what to think. They want to tell you what to read. They want to tell you what not to read. They want to avoid the conversation at all costs. And in order to do that, they've been putting out a lot of disinformation. They've been putting out a lot of contradictory information. For example, you will see Vocab Malone refer to his European friend as a Jew. But the other day on Berean's channel, you heard Vocab Malone tell you that the true Jews or the true Israel are the people who believe in Christ. So if that's the case, why can't everybody call themselves a Jew? You will see that Nefertiti said that the real Jews are European and that they were on the west coast of Africa. But then you will see Damon Richardson say that the Jews in Africa were proselytes and converts, not the real deal. But then you will hear Eric Mason say that no white people were involved in the writing of the Bible. So now we have contradictory information coming out from the urban apologetics community about who the true Israelites are. So how can they then determine whether or not the prophecy fits those who were scattered by the transatlantic slave trade? And that's just part of my problem with all of this. Now, I want to address something else. Vocab Malone has shown himself to be a consistent liar. That's why I'm telling everybody right now to fact check everything I say, fact check everything Vocab says tonight. I'm going to give you guys sources so you can fact check all of this stuff yourself. So now, what the urban apologists don't want you to understand is that they are not united. They don't even agree on this subject. In fact, a lot of what Vocab Malone is going to teach you tonight is contradictory to what his so-called friend and mentor Eric Mason teaches. And I'm going to quote from Eric Mason about the 400 years tonight. I'm going to quote from Eric Mason about who wrote the Bible. I'm going to quote from Eric Mason about white people asking us for information concerning our beliefs. I personally think that Vocab is involved with trying to bring down Eric Mason, but I'm gonna show you guys some of that stuff tonight. And I know I'm not getting to the 400 years as quickly as you guys want to. So now, if you guys have a pen and paper ready, if you want to write these down, if not, you will get the links. What the urban apologists are not telling you, lies by omission. They've been doing this stuff for a long time. They've been researching supposedly for a long time. And there is information that they are purposely not giving you. They are not telling you that the black Jews fled from Spain to Portugal, according to Hannah Adams. They are not telling you that they were expelled from Spain, went into Portugal, and then got expelled from Portugal and sent into West Africa. Now, according to the Portuguese exploration to the west of Brazil, 1450 to 1800, the black Portuguese Jews were deported to South Africa. This is on brown.edu. And I'm bringing out this information because I'm going to get into the 400 years and what all this stuff has to do with the 400 years. Again, these links will be in the description. So brown.edu. In 1774, there's a map, an African map that you can find at yale.edu. One of the co-authors on this map was Emmanuel Bowen, the same person that made the 1747 map that they claim they debunked. And this map from Yale says the Jews were in Africa. In Bulletin Society in 1890, it's a French publication. It says that the tribes of Israel were in West Africa, and it specifically refers to Judah in West Africa. And yet you will see the urban apologists such as Nefertiti and Damon Richardson telling you that they said they weren't in there, and then when they got caught lying, then they admitted that they were there, and then they started saying they were Europeans. Vocab hasn't called out any of these lies. In fact, he shared Nefertiti's video after she got called out on her lies. And if you go in the comments section, you will see that people started to timestamp those lies. So while he's calling me a false prophet for sharing Pastor Omar's video, he's not telling you that he shared Nefertiti's video after she had been caught in multiple lies. And then her video received more thumbs down and thumbs up, and he doubled down and continued to share this lie that the Jews were not in West Africa. So now, in 1877, you have the Jews of Spain and Portugal in the Inquisition by Princeton Theological Seminary. This says the black Jews were stripped naked and left on the west coast of Africa. In 1882, The Earth and Its Inhabitants by Princeton Theological Seminary. It says that Widda or Judah in West Africa was called that because the people were living there were known to be Jews. And they referred to it as the farm because they were taking so many slaves from what they call the farm or Judah or Widda and bringing them across the ocean. And again, I'm going to tie all this together. 1784 Hibernian Magazine from the New York Public Library. It says the Portuguese Jews are black. But Nefertiti was teaching that the Portuguese Jews are white Europeans, and Vocab didn't call that out. Instead, he kept sharing the video pushing the lie that these Portuguese Jews were Europeans. In 1969, Henry Kissinger, in a letter to the president, calls the Igbo the wandering Jews of Africa, West Africa. Some of you know about the slave voyages database from Emory University, Cambridge, and a bunch of other places that got together and started putting together these slave names. And you know, if you go through there, you can check the names and see that some of them have the names of God, such as Yah. You can see that many of them are Igbo, or it's pronounced Hebrew to some people. You can see all of this stuff cataloged throughout history. And when we come back around to me, I'm going to read you guys something from Cambridge University Press. But the fact is, we know that the 400 years applies to us because we've done the research. Vocab isn't going to share any of his links with you. I challenge you guys to ask Vocab for his sources of everything he's about to say tonight. I'm going to point out every time he misrepresents my position. And as you guys saw, he attacked Teo Ministries. He didn't bring out much about me. He brought out mostly about Teo Ministries and other people. And that's what he's going to continue to do tonight. He's going to continue to attack other people, and he's going to continue to show his hypocrisy. So I'm going to go ahead and let Vocab have the mic back early, because that's really all I have to say as far as the introduction.
All right, thank you so much. You heard that, vocab. We're gonna stop that there, just short of 10 minutes. Vocab, are you ready? Let me unmute you.
Wait a minute. Where's the thing here?
You're a little low. Are you talking to us or you're?
Yeah. Okay. My bad. Yeah, I got it.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Okay. You said you want me to go now? Is that what you said?
No. He was a little short. So he said he was gonna yield the time over to you. The rest. Oh, you're all right. You ready?
Well, yeah. This would be my first rebuttal, though, right?
That's correct. Yes, sir.
Yeah. Okay. How much time do I have on this one?
This one's 8 minutes.
Okay. Thank you.
But let me just make sure. Is it 8 or 10? I don't want them to come back and jump on me. 10 minutes. I'm sorry. First one is 10. The second one's 8. Whenever you're ready, let me get back to this clock. Whenever you're ready, I may have to plug this thing in here. I'll start the clock whenever you're ready, and you can begin.
All right. Check this out. Dante said, "Hey, I'm just sharing and copying their descriptions, and vocab doesn't tell you that." Well, notice how I brought things from his own posts. I brought things from interviews as well. I brought multiple things where it wasn't just that. But nonetheless, let's just go with that for a second. Why would you share something you don't agree with? What I'm saying is, does he not agree with those descriptions he shared? He needs to tell us which way it is. Does he agree or not agree? If he doesn't agree, then he needs to say he doesn't agree. Be clear. Be a man. He said he's calling me a false prophet for sharing Pastor Omar's video. Well, are you saying that was the essence of it? Notice I gave a lot more information than that, but let's go with that. If that is what you're saying would mark you off as a false prophet, if that was it, then let me ask you, do you agree with what Pastor Omar said there? Or are you actually saying that he is a false prophet? You need to be clear, please, and let us know. I mean, let me read this again, what it said. The 400 years of captivity, which are coming to an end in 2019. Okay, what's different about what you believe than that? Why did you write that? Be clear. Be a man. He said, I can't speak for Teo Ministries. Are you saying that they made errors? Because, see, Paul, the Apostle Paul, wouldn't promote false prophets. Peter wouldn't promote false prophets. In fact, I just read an article today. I was reading Dictionary of the Later New Testament and its Development, and the article is all about adversaries in the epistles. People get called out for false doctrine and all that kind of stuff. So if you're going to distance yourself from them, then tell us what's going on, because you share their stuff all the time. And when you interview them, you say, that's right. I knew you would do this, but you need to own it. But I don't think you will own it. Now, you also said, I know you guys might think I'm going off topic with this. Yes, that's all you did. You literally never said anything about the 400-year prophecy. Yet you've got books and blogs and videos and everything else talking about it. You never once explained what you think it is, how it was fulfilled, why I'm wrong. And yet the very point of this debate is, did you promote the 400-year false prophecy, which I'm saying is false, and I guess you're saying is not false, but you didn't tell anyone how it's not false. What is this? I knew you would do this because your comfortable territory is to do one thing, which is accuse your opponents of racism. And it's insane to me that you said, who came to Eric Mason's defense? It was us. Well, with friends like you, Dante Fortson, who needs enemies? Let me read some of these titles. Sleep Church, The Cult of Eric Mason, parts 1 and 2. Nephronity exposed by Eric Mason, caught lying for the third time. Remember, the devil divides. Pseudo Church, Eric Mason, Vocab Malone, Nephronity, and Faithful to God exposed. Here's another one. Riding with Eric Mason, James White, Jeff Durbin, Vocab Malone, and other racist Christians. Let's not forget the video titled Muhammad Tanzimore and Pastor Kelly, where you let Muhammad Tanzimore say things like Pastor Mason's getting his money from white Jews and they're controlling what he says and all that stuff. So I don't think you're in any position to claim you're a defender of Pastor Eric Mason. I mean, if one of us is trying to cause his downfall, which one would it be? The one who likes to share his videos and defends him against Muhammad Tanzimore? I mean, Benedict Arnold? I mean, whoever? Or the guy who says the cult of Eric Mason, Sleep Church? I think it's kind of an obvious answer. You said the UA are not even united. They don't even agree with themselves. Well, Hebrew Israelites aren't united. You don't agree with yourselves. Almost all my friends in the One West camps deny the false 400-year prophecy. This is going to be one of those weird, rare times where Al-Azhar and all those guys are watching this and saying, yeah, Vocab's right. That false 400-year prophecy was false. Because they all knew from jump it was bunk. The One Westers got burnt in 99-2000, so they distanced themselves from the 400-year prophecy. So what do you mean? But then switching over, what you promote is somewhat similar to Ron Dalton's version of it. I didn't bring that up tonight, but you don't agree exactly with him on the details. And even with Teo, because they changed it from 2019 to 2020, you kept yours at 2019. Which one is it? That's why you did a 2019 year in review. Why didn't you give us that evidence again if you thought it was fulfilled? See, the whole night is going to be dodgeball. You're going to be ducking and dodging and diving. You're not going to ever come directly to me and show me how you didn't promote it or how it was fulfilled. It's not going to happen. You said, I know I'm not getting to the 400 years as quickly as you guys might wish. That's the only really correct thing you said in your statement. You never got to it. You never got to it. And lastly, you said he can go first since he challenged me. Well, in July 23rd, 2019, you actually challenged me to debate and saying I would never do it. And yet here we are. Now, we've got a little bit of time here. And what I want to do is go directly to one of your blog posts. Since I knew you would run from the information I presented, even though it's from you, let's look at this June 19th, 2018 article called The Final Juneteenth. All descendants of the transatlantic slave trade need to read this. The final Juneteenth. You're saying there's not going to be any more Juneteenths left. Yet there's still Juneteenths happening. Here's how you begin it. If the following is just a coincidence, we're effed. And you put the asterisk, so you didn't actually say the word, but that was kind of interesting. Now check this out. It has to be more than a coincidence that a 400-year curse was pronounced on Israel to be enslaved and taken to a strange land in slave ships. It has to be more than a coincidence that the 13th Amendment was allowed slavery to continue in America for 400 years, aligning with Bible prophecy. It has to be more than a coincidence that Trump signed off on a panel to recognize our 400 years in this country. It has to be more than a coincidence that Jeff Sessions wants black people researching our identity to be investigated. It has to be more than a coincidence that the census now wants to ask black people about our racial origin, which will probably be used to round up the awakened. It has to be more than a coincidence that the internet is allowing our people to uncover parts of our history that link back to the Hebrews in the Bible. It has to be more than a coincidence that the 400-year curse pronounced on Israel ends sometime in 2019. These are your words. Stick by them. Check this out. If these observations are more than a coincidence, then it means someone bigger, is out there watching. But not only watching, he cared enough to warn us in advance and leave us specific instructions on how to put an end to all this evil when the time is right. We have reached our limit, so the time has to be right because we don't have any other options. Listen to this. I'm going to continue on reading this article. We literally have one promise that was made to our ancestors. Out of all history and religions that I've studied, I've only found one solid promise made specifically to our people. I didn't fully understand the implications of some of these promises until the last year or so, but now was the time to call in that promise. Many of us suspect that not only are we Hebrews, but everything we're experiencing from slavery to segregation is what we're seeing now happen by design and is referred to in the Bible as the time of Jacob's trouble. And then you quote Jeremiah 37. Then you go on and have some bullet points, and here's what one of them reads. Many of us strongly believe the curse ends in 2019. And then you follow that up by saying, we need to spend as much time as possible waking up our people over the next year. Then you ask the question, how did our people end up in this situation? And one thing you say under that section is, we're coming to the end of the last cycle. You said this. As you go on down the article, it's a rather long article. I'm reading parts. I encourage everyone to read the whole thing. I already gave the title, so I'm not afraid of everyone reading the whole thing. The key to the second coming of the Messiah has always been and will always be us. You say the promises that were made have to be kept, and here's a quote again from you. The following instructions on how to call back the Most High. They're specifically written to true Israel for the purpose of ending our captivity in the last days in a land that is not ours. Then you give an instruction set where you quote passages such as 1 Chronicles 16:35 and also Jeremiah 29:12 through 14. And then you give sort of application to this. Pray daily from now through 2019 because the 400-year curse ends sometime in 2019. And then go on under the section called The Awakening is Bigger Than Israel. You say this. It is our duty to humanity, but more specifically to ourselves as a nation, to awaken as many people before 2019 as we can. Dante, you could literally be one of those guys on the corner with a sign saying the end is now. That is this blog post. Let me read this where it says my final thoughts. You say this. Let's not get too caught up in the 2019 prophecy as far as expecting something immediate to happen. You're negating everything you've written before this. My current official position is that the prayer lines open up in 2019 because the curse won. Notice that's two prophecies there. Show us how that happened. I'm not predicting a sudden outpouring of the wrath of God or an immediate return of Christ, although if you watch the Teo videos, that's exactly what they do. They try to show the 10 plagues are being fulfilled, therefore the Exodus is about to happen. I've watched all this stuff. Don't get your hopes up, you say, for that in 2019 and then be disappointed when 2020 arrives. That's exactly what happened to everybody. And then here's how you end. The only thing you should expect is that sometime in 2019, we can start calling out to the Most High again as a people. I'm going to end with another quote here. Jeremiah 23:16. This is what the Lord Almighty says. Do not listen to what the prophets are prophesying to you. They fill you with false hopes. They speak visions from their own minds, not from the mouth of the Lord. You gave people a false hope that the prophecy was going to come to pass in 2019. It did not. And therefore, Yahweh condemns you, saying, do not listen to what the prophets are prophesying to you. They fill you with false hope. And that's exactly what you've done, Dante Fortson.
All right. Thank you, Vocab. All right, Mr. Dante. One thing, as I'm looking through the comment section, a lot of people are saying stare back. Make sure we get over here to this 400 years. Let's bring some receipt. Let's bring some proof. Let's try to explain some of these things. Oh, Mr. Dante, I'm gonna give it over to you. Let me reset this thing here. You can hear me, right, sir? I'm gonna unmute you in a second. I'm gonna hit reset. Let me unmute you to make sure you're good. And I'm gonna look at some of these comments. I sometimes put random comments up there. Minister Dante, are you ready, sir?
Yeah, I'm good.
You ready? Okay, you can begin right now.
All right. So once again, we heard Vocab toss Teo Ministries out there and what they believe, which has nothing to do with me. Vocab had said the prophecy failed. He didn't tell you what the prophecy was. He didn't tell you any prophecy that I made. He said nothing for 10 minutes. He read my article. And if you pay attention to the chat, people were saying they didn't see any lies in it. Now, understand this. There were a lot of things Vocab said, but none of them directly addressed the 400 years. Why is that? It's because Vocab either knows what I believe, and Vocab is quoted out of my book before in relation to the 400 years, and he's lying to you and pretending like he doesn't know, or he really doesn't know, which is why he won't say anything specific I lied about, which is why when he keeps talking, he reverts over to Teo. He's waiting for me to say what I believe about the 400 years so he can respond, and because I didn't say anything, he now has nothing to respond to as far as what I teach about the 400 years. He said out of his own mouth when he was reading it, I didn't expect anything to happen. So what is he saying failed? I said that the curse would end. And I'm going to tell you guys about that curse in just a second. I want to reply to a couple other things he said. He said that why am I sharing stuff I don't agree with? Now, if we're going to go by that same logic, when he shared that Nephi video that said that these people were Europeans, why didn't he share the Pastor Mason video that said Europeans had nothing to do with the writing of the Bible? It tells you he does not believe black people had anything to do with the writing of the Bible, which is the exact opposite of Eric Mason, which goes back to their doctrine not being consistent. He does not give you the timeline in which these things happened. I shared Pastor Omar's video long before my book came out, and I announced my official position on the 400 years. Those of you who have been listening to me and those of you who have read my stuff know my official position on the 400 years. Vocab just read it. So there's really nothing for me to say about it. Vocab just read it. He read my expectations for the 400 years, and he read my exact words for the 400 years. Now, he says the devil divides. Go back and look at Vocab's last appearance on here. He immediately came in and told Muhammad that the Israelites would use him and throw him away. And yet we see that's what's happening with Brother Berean and Damon Richardson and everybody coming in Brother Berean. We see that's what's happening to Brother Muhammad. Vocab came on there to throw him away. In fact, it was after Muhammad finished telling us the story about how the church threw him away. Now, that video he talked about riding with Eric Mason, that was the Eric Mason defense video in which I said I'm going to stand with Eric Mason against Vocab's racist white friends, Jeff Durbin and James White. So I just wanted to correct that right there. He says, I let Muhammad Tanzimur say things about Eric Mason. Muhammad Tanzimur is a grown man, and this is the problem. Vocab has that white savior, white superiority, white supremacy complex where he feels he can stop a black man from saying something. This is why he referred to it as me letting Muhammad talk. So now that Vocab has told you what Teo Ministries has said, he's told you what everybody else believes besides me, he needs to make it clear what it is he thinks I believe about this 400 years. So now let's go ahead and start addressing some of these 400 years. First, let's talk about the fact that Israel was prophesied to go into slavery or captivity. They were prophesied to be led captive into all nations. So this is something that you'll find in the Eurocentric Christian church that they don't want to talk about. They will tell you Israel was scattered into all nations, but they won't tell you why Israel was scattered into all nations. Israel was cursed for worshiping other gods. That's important. Israel was cursed. So when Vocab keeps bringing up this failed curse or this failed prophecy, he's not putting everything in context, kind of like he did with that 10 minutes. He didn't put anything in context for you. So now Israel is cursed to go into slavery because they worshiped other gods. Now we have a timing of everything that was supposed to happen. If we go to, let me see if I can find it here for you guys right here. We have the timing in the Old Testament. In Jeremiah 29:14, we see that Israel was going to be carried away captive. We know in Luke 21:24, we're given a timeline where Christ says, ye shall be led captive into all nations. So we know that there has to be a worldwide captivity, led captive into all nations after the time of Christ. Find me in history at any point another nation at all that has a worldwide captivity, a worldwide slavery. Again, this is Luke 21:24 and Jeremiah 29:14, both prophesy this. Now, later on, Vocab is, well, he's probably not even going to talk about it because he doesn't really know the history. A lot of Israelites use Deuteronomy 28:68. They talk about the slavery on ships. Now, that would be one thing for Vocab to say we're taken out of context if that only occurred in one place. In Zephaniah 3:10, it talks about the daughter of his dispersed coming back from across the waters of Ethiopia. And in the KJV, it says the rivers of Ethiopia, but it talks about them coming across the sea on ships. If you do some research, the Atlantic Ocean was formerly named the Ethiopian Ocean. If you accept the current modern day of our land of Israel as the place from which these people were at the time, then the land of Ethiopia has to be towards Africa somewhere. So now there's people coming in ships to take Israel into slavery or captivity. Isaiah 11:11 gives us a list of African places these people are gathered from. This is important because Vocab wants you to believe that none of these people were black and none of these curses applied to us, and therefore no curse was lifted because the curse didn't apply to us. And that's why the background is important as to who Israel is, which is why he doesn't want to have this debate. Zephaniah 3:10 talks about it. And again, Isaiah 18:1-7 talks about America coming across this, or let's say, woe unto the nation with the outspread wings. I don't want to get sidetracked to America, but Google or even YouTube search how many pastors, white pastors, European pastors, believe that America is the daughter of Babylon, aka Mystery Babylon. That's important because when we get into prophecy, what does the prophecy tell us? It tells us that Israel dwells with the daughter of Babylon. Well, how did they get there with the daughter of Babylon? They were taken captive in slave ships. It tells us to come out of Mystery Babylon. Again, important. Why would we have to come out of a nation if we weren't there? It tells us later on, we'll get deeper into this as we get further into addressing the 400 years. It tells us that the Most High is going to free us from the land of our captivity. Unless Vocab can show me those European Jews still living in the land of their captivity, then he has to find somebody else that prophecy fits. Because right now, after the time of Christ, the only 400-year captivity to happen was the enslavement of our people. The only worldwide slavery to happen was that of Israel from the west coast of Africa. The only people still currently living in the land of their captivity are those enslaved by the transatlantic slave trade. So unless you can show me that the history applies to anyone else, then you have to sit back and say, okay, first we have to figure out who this history applies to, but you can't say the curse failed if you don't even know what the curse is. So I would like Vocab to tell us exactly what he thinks the curse is, because I've explained exactly what I think the curse is, and I'll give you the verses on my next reply, but I want Vocab to tell us exactly what he believes I said the curse is, and please tell us how it has failed if he doesn't even know which people to apply it to.
Okay, that's it. You're in the rest of the time, correct, brother?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Vocab, you heard everything correct? I'm gonna unmute you in 1 second. Let me reset this. I might have to plug this in. Are you there, Vocab?
Yes, sir.
Okay, you're ready.
Yeah. How much time is this one?
This is 8, I believe. 8, sir.
8 minutes.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Sister. This is 8 minutes.
All right.
Ready?
Yes,
and
sir.
you can begin now.
All right. When you look over everything I brought out from the first 2 rounds, I brought out a number of things that Mr. Fortson himself did say would happen in 2019. I knew he would most of the time try to throw Teo Ministries under the bus and disassociate himself with Pastor Omar. But let's look now at only the things he directly said, not even the things that he promoted. Although I don't think that a real teacher would promote false teachers. So let's look what he said specifically from the blogs I've already read. And I gave the titles every time. That means they're all sourced, because all you got to do is put in the title and you found it. What it's not, he said it's not the return of Christ. So that's the one thing he told us it was not. Okay, we understand that. Now, what it is: Judgment and the Fall of America. That is actually the title. 400 Years in Judgment and the Fall of America. It seems like he's saying there will be judgment in the fall of America, isn't he? That's exactly what Teo tries to prove in their stuff. And it's similar to what he tried to prove in the 400 Year in Prophecy 2019 Year in Review. Why isn't he giving us any of this information that he gave in these videos himself? Forget about Teo, where he tried to say, well, look, it was fulfilled. And he said, well, I was just quoting, their Pastor Omar covers the 400 years of captivity, which are coming in 2019. Yet he himself said with his own pen, the 400-year curse pronounced on Israel comes sometime in 2019. So why is he acting like what Pastor Omar said is different? He literally said in his own blog, which I read to you, the 400-year curse pronounced on Israel in sometime in 2019. It's literally the same thing. Deal with it. And he said, now is the time to call in that promise, indicating that means the promise will be fulfilled. And he says that this is the time it's going to be bringing us into Jacob's trouble. And that's exactly some of the things that Teo Ministries tries to prove. He said, we're coming to the end of the last cycle. He said, this is written to end our captivity in the last days. These are all things I am reading that he wrote directly. And if you notice, each one of those has a prophetic element, something he's saying is going to happen. In fact, one place he said, did the attitude towards Israel shift in 2019, indicating that would be fulfillment of the prophecy if it did? Well, tell us. Did the attitude towards Israel shift in 2019? Show us how it's fulfilled. And again, I remind you this. My current official position, he says, is that the prayer lines open up in 2019. Were the prayer lines closed before that? He needs to explain what that means. And then look what he says. He tells you the reason why the prayer lines will supposedly open up in 2019, because the curse will end. How did the curse end? What about the curse ended, Dante? You have literally told us nothing tonight about any curse ending. And you said, these instructions are written for the purpose of ending our captivity. Has the captivity ended? What is this? Stand by what you wrote. And this is why he said, here's what we need to do, speaking to his readers. The only thing you should expect is that sometime in 2019, we can start calling out to the Most High as a people again. Okay, are you saying before we couldn't call out to the Most High? Now we can. What changed? Explain it. And that because of that, we have to waken up as many people before 2019 as we can. Why would you need to do that? Because what? See, it's never explained. This is sad. The whole time, all he's done is accuse people of racism and then shift to his familiar topics. But it's funny. I was watching a video there by Dante today. And, it's funny. He always goes around accusing people of racism and stuff. But you tell me if you think this right here is racist. Because I found it racist, what he said here. And it was something that he said. You tell me if this is racist. Would you think someone's racist if they associate prisoners as black people? Meaning they basically assume that prisoner is the same thing as a black person. Dante does that. And after he corrects himself, does it again. Let me play this for you.
Also ended Pell Grants for people in prison. So the number of black people graduating with degrees dropped from 14. Well, the number of people in prison, we'll say it's not just black people. The number of people in prison graduating with degrees.
You guys hear that? Could you hear that?
It was a little low.
Ended Pell Grants for people in prison. So the number of black people graduating with degrees dropped from 14. Well, the number of people in prison, we'll say it's not just black people. The number of people in prison.
So he corrects himself because he literally equated prisoners with black people. That sounds racist. And then a few seconds later, he literally does the same thing again. Listen.
Stripped. Black people leave prison uneducated. They have a felony record, which makes it hard for them to get employment.
Now he's talking about Pell Grant restrictions by Biden and saying, therefore, it's hard to get educated. And he corrected himself the first time after doing it, which is clearly a racist mistake. Yet then does it again because everyone's leaving prison. It's funny. Someone is saying, oh, this is about 400 years. This is off topic. The whole time, Dante has been trying to show I'm a closet racist. That's his favorite topic, which is totally off topic. But since he went there, I went there with him. Now, if you're in the audience, use equal scales. Don't say, oh, you're going off topic. When the whole time, that's what Dante's been doing. And the second I go with them, we see that Dante Fortson himself equates black people with prisoners, or rather prisoners with black people. And even after he corrects himself, can't help but make the same racist slip again. Dante Fortson is a false teacher who promotes false teachers. And that's why Titus 1:11 is applied to him. They are turning whole families away from the truth by their false teaching. And if you believe you're of Israel, Dante, listen to Ezekiel 13:9, because your false prophecies alone get you cast out. Quote, my hand will be against the prophets who see false visions and who give lying divinations. They shall not be in the council of my people, nor be enrolled in the register of the house of Israel, nor shall they enter the land of Israel, and you shall know that I am the Lord God. If you are an Israelite, Dante, your false prophecies have excluded you. Your false prophecies have got you kicked out. So just by tonight alone, we see that even if you were ever of Israel, you've been removed according to Ezekiel 13:9 because you're a false prophet. With that, I end.
Okay, and I'm going to stop your time right there. Minister Dante, another thing I want to ask, there are some questions and some things coming up. If there's time, I want to make sure y'all get to questioning each other. Minister Dante, are you ready? Let me just check one thing before I go over it. I want to pull some of these questions up and some of these things up, but this is not to throw anyone off here. Let me just check one thing. Cross-examine. Is this the third rebuttal? I'm sorry, cross-examining. We're going to begin with that, or I think Minister Dante have one more. That third rebuttal? If I'm correct, I just muted vocab.
More.
Dante, excuse me, can you hear me?
Yeah, I should have one more since I went after vocab.
Yes, that's correct. Yes, sir. And
All right,
all right, guys, one second. And you can begin right now.
All right, so vocab just proved what I said about him not giving you context and lying. He claims that I was saying something and equating prisoners with black people. What vocab didn't tell you is I was actually reading statistics from a website, and I misspoke as I was reading through all the statistics from a website. I wasn't just freestyling that. And then for those of you who actually watched the video all the way through, you knew I got back to my main topic. So anyway, that stuff is irrelevant. And you see he keeps bringing up Teo Ministries for whatever reason. But I want to read to you guys Hosea 5:15. Just one of the verses I want to give to you guys, because he asked, what were the prayer lines closed before? And for those who are familiar with my book, which I would assume vocab was familiar with my book since he put my book in his video about the camps. So now vocab is revealing that he didn't actually read my book, and he keeps mentioning titles, but he doesn't bother to give you the context of what the what's being behind those titles. He takes the title and he runs with it, just like the riding with Eric Mason. He named that off in his list of things that were against Eric Mason, but he didn't give you the context that that video came out after I had already started going in on Eric Mason. I stopped stopped going in on Eric Mason, dropped the Riding with Eric Mason video to tell people I wasn't going to keep going in on Eric Mason because I was going to ride with him against Vocab's racist friends, Jeff Durbin and James White, who called Eric Mason a hoe, a slut, a pimp, called the entire woke church BS, and said that basically black believers who say they're woke should be excommunicated from the white Christian church. Vocab isn't giving you that context because he doesn't want you to know that. So now, to answer his question about the prayer lines being cut off, one of the verses that I showed in my book, and I've mentioned before, was Hosea 5:15, where God says, I will go and return to my place till they acknowledge their offense. They seek my face. In their affliction, they shall seek me early. He talks about going away until Israel acknowledges their affliction or acknowledges their offense. We read in Jeremiah chapter 30, verses 1 through 24. I'll read these. This is a message to Israel, and Vocab, the urban apologist, won't touch this. Again, this is concerning the curse of not being able to be delivered from this. They couldn't get through to God because he turned his back. He said, I'll go to my place so they acknowledge their offense. I'm going to show you one more after this. But this is Jeremiah 30. The word that came to Jeremiah from the Lord saying, thus speaketh the Lord God of Israel, not the church. This is to Israel, saying, write thee all the words that I have spoken unto thee in a book. For lo, the days come, saith the Lord, that I will bring again the captivity of my people Israel and Judah, saith the Lord, and I will cause them to return to the land that I gave to their fathers, and they shall possess it. And these are the words of the Lord that the Lord spake concerning Israel and concerning Judah. For thus saith the Lord, we have heard the voice of trembling, of fear, and not of peace. Ask ye now and see whether a man doth travail with child. Wherefore do I see every man with his hands on his loins as a woman in travail, and all faces are turned into paleness. Alas, for the day is great, so that none is like it. It is even the time of Jacob's trouble, but he shall be saved out of it. It doesn't say the church is going to get raptured out of it. It says Jacob, Israel, is going to get saved out of the day of trouble. For it shall come to pass in that day, saith the Lord of hosts, that I will break his yoke from off thy neck, and I will burst thy bonds, and strangers shall no more serve themselves of him. He's talking about releasing them from slavery, from bondage, from oppression. Now, if anybody knows anything about the history of slavery, you will know that the slave catchers became prisoners, the plantations became prison, and they started a system of mass incarceration. And you had the vagrancy laws that were some of the first laws to pop up because the slaves that were released didn't have any money and didn't have anywhere to go. And according to the 13th Amendment, you can legally put people back into slavery for committing a crime. So they purposely wrote crimes in order to have people put back into slavery. And we still see the mass slavery system in effect in America right in front of our face, but they disguise it as incarceration and they justify it by saying you broke the law. So the curse is still under effect. But when COVID happened and people went inside, they started releasing prisoners. Now, that's one of the prophecies. I'll come back to it. But anyway, we'll go back to Jeremiah chapter 30, verse 9. But they shall serve the Lord their God and David their king, whom I will raise up unto them. Therefore fear not, O my servant Jacob, saith the Lord, neither be dismayed, O Israel. For lo, I will save thee from afar, and thy seed from the land of their captivity. And Jacob shall return and shall be in rest and be quiet, none shall make him afraid. So if those people in 1948 fit the prophecy, please tell me where the land of their captivity was. Show me their captivity in the prophecy. It says the Most High will save them from their captivity. And Jacob shall return and be in rest and be quiet, and none shall make him afraid. And yet we see bombings happening in Israel, suicide bombings. So you guys want to address that 1948 thing? It couldn't have been it. For thus saith the Lord, thy bruise is incurable, thy wound is grievous. Anyway, if you get down to the bottom, this is the important part. Verse 24, Jeremiah chapter 30, verse 24. Read to the bottom. The fierce anger of the Lord shall not return until he have done it, until he have performed the intents of his heart. In the latter days ye shall consider it. So this event is supposed to take place in the last days, and yet we have no historical context for this event. We see in Judges 10 where they are about to go into slavery, and God says, no, I'm not going to save you out of slavery anymore because you keep worshiping these other gods. Call these other gods you worship. And so God stopped listening to Israel because he pronounced a curse on Israel. And this is the curse we tie to what happened to what was said to Abraham. Nova surety, Your people shall spend 400 years in the land is not theirs, and they will serve and oppress them. So, or slave and oppress them. I'm paraphrasing there. But Genesis chapter, was it 13, 15? Let me make sure. But anyway, while I pull that up, the fact is we tie that to the 400-year captivity, a point of interest by signing that paper. So because of that, we now can look and say, wait, why is it so important, this 1619 400-year thing? The New York Times, 1513, I'm sorry, Genesis 15:13. The New York Times has made a big deal out of the 400-year prophecy. They started covering the 400 years of slavery in America. The UN is coming out talking about reparations. In Genesis 15:13 says, and he said unto Abram, know of a surety that thy seed shall be a stranger in the land that is not theirs, and shall serve them, and they shall afflict them 400 years. And also that nation whom they shall serve will I judge, and afterwards shall they come out with great substance. Vocab Malone and the rest of the urban apologists would have you believe that at the end of the 400 years, Trump and the UN and everybody else making a big deal about it is just a coincidence. Africa telling us to come back and offering us citizenship and land ownership when they could not before, or did not before, he wants you to believe it's just a coincidence. He wants you to believe the reparations talks are just a coincidence. He wants you to believe the world shutting down due to COVID just after the 400 years is coincidence. He wants you to believe the murder hornets were coincidence. The tornadoes were coincidence. He wants you to believe that all the natural disasters we're seeing, such as floods and volcanoes and tornadoes and hurricanes and earthquakes and all this other stuff going on, is just a coincidence. One of those earthquakes, I believe it was, knocked the trumpet out the Angel Moroni's hands in Utah. So we're seeing all this.
Okay, that's it, Minister.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, I think that was the second. Was that the second, Sister E? I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to definitely plug this thing in here. Let me stop this right here. Vocab, are you there? Are you ready, brother?
Yeah, isn't that the final
Hold on a second.
rebuttal? Don't.
Let me see.
Wait,
Sister. Yeah. Well,
We got to
Sister E, was that
cross-examination
three?
now.
Yes, was that three, Sister E? Was that the end of the right click? All right, that's something else. Give me 1 second. Give me 1 second. I just want to make sure. All right, we're at cross-examination, 10 minutes each. Whenever you're ready, sir, I'm going to stop and plug this in, but I'll hit this. And you can begin. You ready, sir? Just nod your head. You can begin. Yes, sir. Yes, you.
Yeah. Okay.
You can begin right now.
All right. Thanks. Dante, what is the 400-year prophecy? Is his mic muted?
I just want some clarity, Brother Berean, before we start on this section. When you say 10 minutes, are we going 10 minutes each, or what? How is that working? Is he asking me one question, I respond, and I ask him one? You're muted. I can't hear you.
I thought that's how y'all wanted to do it. You can go back and forth on a series. How do you want to? Go ahead.
Could I read? I'll read it here. Each person has prepared several questions to ask one another. Due to time constraints, the maximum amount of time to answer a question will be 1 minute. Once you go over the 1 minute mark, you will hear the sound buzzer. I mean, these are for debate talk for you, so obviously you got your own adjustments. That means it's time to go to the next question. In the process of asking your questions or answering a question, please make it brief. Person on the receiving side being asked questions, please save your questions for when it's your cross-examination time. So the idea is that one person has 10 minutes and they ask their set of questions, in which the person only answers, and they try to make it brief because there's a time limit here. And then the other person.
All right, so he don't have to. So you go ahead then. We begin in 10 minutes. I'm going to start over. So he doesn't have to. You could just write down the series of questions that he's going to give you and begin to answer them. That's all right with you, Minister Dante.
Yeah, I'll try to keep up with these if we're going to be answering 10 minutes.
Okay, I'm writing also. Vocab, you got the floor.
What is the 400-year prophecy?
I just read this from Genesis 15, chapters 13. I'm sorry, Genesis chapter 15, verses 13 through 14.
Was that fulfilled during Israel's time in Egypt?
Well, if we go to the Septuagint, since you like bringing up Teo Ministries, they showed on Brother Berean's channel the video. If you go to the Septuagint, it says that Israel spent 430 years between Canaan and Egypt, and it breaks down to 215 years in Canaan, 215 years in Egypt. Also, if you do the math strictly from the King James Version, you'll know that Joseph was in charge for part of that time, so they could not have been enslaved for a total of 400 years. And then we can also get into dual fulfillment. But you didn't ask me that. But no,
is that a no?
It was not fulfilled in Egypt.
Thank you. Thank you. Will it be fulfilled in this captivity in America?
Many of us believe it will be fulfilled, and now we all believe different.
When did it begin? That according to you, not everybody else, just Dante Fortson. When did the 400 years begin according to you?
I agree with Dr. Eric Mason that it began in 1619 when the first African slaves arrived in Jamestown. I agree with Dr. Mason on that.
When will the 400-year prophecy end if it began in 1619?
Well, some of us believe that.
Dante, what you believe, please. Let me be clear. Just what you believe. I don't care about other people here.
Okay. I personally believe the curse part of it, where we could not call out to God because he said he wouldn't hear us. He was going to go back to his place until we acknowledged our offense. I believe that part where God was not going to listen to Israel for 400 years to fulfill the prophecy, I believe that part has been fulfilled. However, that's not my entire belief.
All right. So what curses were lifted?
I just told you. Part of the curse was him not listening to Israel for 400 years, which is why Israel's saying kumbaya. In their affliction, they will call out to me early.
Does that mean in 2018, when you prayed to God, did he hear you, Dante?
Again, I told you I didn't believe the curse would be lifted until 2019.
Right.
I believe that God hears us, but God was not going to intervene on the curse until after 19. He wasn't going to intervene at all until after 2019. I didn't set a date, but you started saying in August that it had failed, even though I never set August as a date, not once.
Okay. On your program, did Teo say August?
Again, I thought you didn't want me to answer what anybody else believes. Now you ask me about
since again, you said you never said
be specific. How many times has Teo appeared? I don't recall Teo ever saying August 2019.
Well, I guess you need to go back and listen. I guess you need to go back and listen to your own program.
Okay, so program
I'll tell you what. Hold on, let me tell you what it is. Title. 400 Years of Judgment, the Fall of America. In there, they said it. I quoted in my opening statement. I'm sure you missed that. So they said that. Did you disagree with him when he said that? Because you indicated that was a good answer after he said that.
Again, Teo's opinion, it was a good answer. He answered the question I asked him.
Mm-hmm.
So again,
okay, so is Teo Ministries composed of false prophets?
No, Teo Ministries isn't. They haven't made a single prophecy ever that I've heard.
Then why did they switch it from 2019 to 2020?
Again, they were trying to interpret to the best of their ability, which they always say. They lead with that disclaimer, and you like to leave out the context. Mm-hmm. They lead with the disclaimer that they are trying to interpret it to the best of their ability. They are not prophesying something. Be clear with that.
Oh, yeah. When you set a date and say it's going to happen here and all that, I mean, you can go on and say you don't set dates or that you can add caveats. False prophets always do this because they're always afraid there's a part of them that might be wrong. That's why I have more respect for Harold Camping. You know, at least he was a little more clear. So you're saying that, but I mentioned that a number of times. Okay, so do you believe there will be a second Exodus?
There's already a second Exodus occurring, which you would know if you were paying attention.
Oh, no.
But you don't know much about Israelites.
Dante Fortson, let me explain something. When I ask you
you don't think this happened. No, let me explain something to you. I don't have to validate myself to you.
No, you already answered it.
For nothing.
You already answered. When I ask you a question, Dante, it's not because I'm unfamiliar with the answer. It's because I know exactly what the answer is. That's a good debating tactic. So I know exactly what the answer is. So the insult back is irrelevant because I'm leading you somewhere. You've fallen into every trap because you are false.
There is no trap. I've given you the answer, and I've never prophesied anything. That makes you a liar.
All right. So the second Exodus, the first Exodus, Israel went Oh, I'm muted as well. Everybody's muted. What's going on? Dante, do you believe during the second Exodus, Israel is going to go into Africa? I don't know what's going on, y'all.
I'm still muted, Brother Berean. You're still muted. I haven't heard anything you say, but I see your mouth moving.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. Go ahead. You heard the question that he said. I said I gave him back 40 seconds because I said something about the hopefully they're okay. You hear his question?
All right, can you repeat that one more time?
Yes, sir. During the second Exodus, you believe that Israel is going to go into Africa, correct?
I believe there's a possibility that Israel could go back into Africa, yes.
Now, you said the second Exodus was already being fulfilled. In what way is being fulfilled? Isn't it being fulfilled by them going back into Africa? Isn't that what you said?
First of all, if you pay attention to the first Exodus, it'll give you the blueprint for the second Exodus. The judgments happened while Israel was still in Egypt. And many of us see the current events happening right now as judgment leading up to a second Exodus. So yes, in that context, it is already in progress, according to my personal belief.
Right, but you guys have indicated that the first Exodus may have happened in mass, but the second Exodus may happen drip by drip. So I know that you believe that. And here's what I'm saying.
You said you guys. I have never indicated that. I've never said it. No, I have not.
Now I'm going to tell.
Quote me word for word. Quote me word for word.
This is the same trick you did with Cherry. You said, where did I ever say she was a closet lesbian, even though you have a whole show called Sister Cherry Love LGBTQ. You try to do this. The fact is you have indicated that. And actually, you just indicated it. So you said, when I just asked you a question, that the second Exodus is begun to be fulfilled. How is it begun to be fulfilled then? By what? How do you know it's begun to be fulfilled, the second Exodus?
I just said it, but you don't listen. Judgments, what we believe are judgments, are occurring on America and other nations. COVID, we see locust swarms, we see famines happening, we see people being released from prisons, we see death all over to the point that people aren't able to bury the bodies fast enough. We see all kinds of different things happening, and we see people exiting the United States already with money. We see the reparations conversation on the table, which is different from any other time in history, occurring all at the same time as what we call the awakening. Dante, all this stuff is not coincidence.
Do you know the definition of Exodus?
Give us the definition of Exodus, Vocab. That's what you're getting to, so you can give it to us anyway. Get to it.
You don't know the definition of Exodus, or you do?
Vocab, get to the definition. We're not playing this little third grade game.
This is my time to ask questions.
He got 3 more minutes. He can ask. If you choose not to answer it, you don't have to answer it, but he can ask. Go ahead.
Do you know the definition of Exodus? As you're a strong Bible teacher, do you know the definition of Exodus?
I'm very aware of the definition of Exodus, so go ahead and get to your point.
How do you define Exodus?
I define Exodus as a leaving in general.
Excellent. Now, you said the second Exodus is already being fulfilled, yet when you indicated in what way, you described a recapitulation of the 10 plagues. So in what way is a recapitulation of 10 plagues in Exodus, which means mass leaving, being fulfilled?
Again, you're playing semantics games. Let's talk about the entire ideology, not playing semantics and words games. You heard my answer. You heard what I believe about the whole thing.
Okay, so there's another question you can't answer. Going on.
I already answered it. You keep asking me the same question different ways. It's already been answered. You don't like the answer.
Well, the 10 plagues happen in order as the same order that they did during the first Exodus.
That I can't say for sure, but I can say this, that we have documented all 10 plagues present at one time, except, well, actually 9, not the death of the firstborn, but we do have mass deaths of people in general.
Okay, so that answer there seems to indicate no, it won't happen in order.
I said I don't know. I didn't say no.
Well, have they happened in order? You said they're documented. Have they happened in order?
I said they are documented that they've happened. I'm not sure if they've happened in order because we don't know exactly when things first appeared on day one. Some things like the locust swarm built up. So we don't know what exact day the locust swarm started, but we know the locust swarms have arrived.
The locust swarms happened to the Egyptians during the first Exodus. Who did the locust swarms happen to this time around?
Okay, and that's the last question. Go ahead if you choose to answer that.
The locust swarms are actually happening all over the world. If you're paying attention to the news, 25% of the world are looking at famines because of the locust swarms all over the world. They're happening everywhere. And if you read the prophecy, it says God will bring an end to the nations and not to Israel. So they're happening all over.
Okay, Minister Dante, now you have a series of questions for Brother Malone. You can begin now.
Do you see the comments made by Jeff Durbin towards Eric Mason as racist?
He never said Eric Mason's name.
Do you see the comments Jeff Durbin made towards woke church as racist?
Which comment specific? If you could tell me which one you mean, then I can respond. I think the sermon was
first
like
of all,
an
he
hour
says
long.
the woke church. Again, he called the woke church a whore, a slut. He used the term pimps. He referred to the Black Fist as communists and Marxists, basically taking shots at everything black people believe, and including being woke. Do you believe that his comments towards the woke church had racist undertones at all?
Some of those comments had racist undertones.
So why haven't you come out on your platform and called him out as a racist, just like you do everybody else?
I talked about it when I was on Brother Brian's platform, and my main goal was not to attack Christians, no matter how wrong they are. My main goal was to deal with you and false teachers like you.
See, now that right there, you claim we aren't Christians. Many of us identify as Christians, and yet you attack us anyway after saying your goal isn't to attack Christians no matter how wrong they are. So is a Christian, in your opinion, allowed to rape or murder somebody and you won't attack them no matter how wrong they are?
Someone who does that with abandon and not repentance is not a Christian by definition.
You like to separate yourself from that, but the KKK does identify as Christians, and you said you don't attack Christians. Would you continuously attack the KKK as much as you attack Israelites?
I've done shows on the KKK where I have attacked them, including their
I said as much as you attack Israelites.
No, because the KKK is not as relevant. But if you want to attack them, go ahead.
The KKK is not as relevant. The FBI did a study and said the KKK had infiltrated the world, the nation's police forces. So how can you say that they aren't relevant? But anyway, let's continue going. The next question: do you agree with Eric Mason when he says no white people were involved in the writing of the Bible?
I don't know the color of the authors of Scripture, and I attribute it ultimately to God Himself.
So, do you agree with Eric Mason or no?
I don't know the color of the authors of Scripture, and I attribute it ultimately to God Himself, as the Bible says.
So you're dodging the question. You're not saying. So do you agree with Nefertiti that European Jews were left on the west coast of Africa and deported from Portugal?
There were some Europe. Well, you're saying European, but they weren't European. They came from Israel. There were Jews who were left on the west coast of Africa. Yeah, that's certainly true.
Nefertiti specifically said they were European. So you're saying no, they weren't European. You're calling her a liar. You just said no, they weren't European. She specifically said they were European. Are you agreeing that they were European or not?
Well, they're the source of the place they came from wasn't Europe, is my understanding.
So no, they weren't European left on the west coast of Africa.
There were Jews on the west coast of Africa, and it's.
I'm asking you, were they European? Not whether they were Jews.
It's pretty
evident, European,
and it's evident by all the historical information we have. They didn't intermingle with local populations, and we do have a few pictures of these folks, and the few pictures of these folks that we indicate would not leave them in these simplistic categories from Jim Crow days of black and white. They would be neither, according to what I've seen, heard, and read.
Okay, so can you give us those sources that say that they were neither black nor European?
Oh, you just got to find the pictures that have some of the final rabbis before those communities left, and you'll be able to find it as well.
So you can't give us the sources specifically like I give people. Okay, so now, do you agree with not Eric Mason, do you agree with Damon Richardson that Judah on the west coast of Africa was not named that because of the tribe of Judah?
Oh, of course he's right.
Is he? According to the 1890 French document, that's not true. And according to other sources that I've given, I want you guys to go check those sources. I give you multiple sources from the 1800s that say that that is exactly why they called it Judah. And the Portuguese are the ones that named it. And the Portuguese were the ones deporting people down there. So why is it that you guys don't share sources to back what you guys are saying?
He shared sources, and when he shared his, he didn't say, "Oh, it gets cut off right there," like you did. He actually shared the full source, unlike you. It gets cut off right there, which is
Actually,
hilarious.
I did share the full source. I gave a link for everybody to read theirself. Now, Damon Richardson did not provide any links to any sources anybody could read in its entirety. He made, and matter of fact, one of the sources he used was a voodoo priest. Do you condone Christians using voodoo priests as sources for scriptural information?
I was never given a fact to show that either of those two men were voodoo priests.
Dude has a YouTube channel. Anyway, that means you guys aren't looking that much. Now, do you, Vocab Malone, do you intend to stand up for Eric Mason against James White openly, saying that Eric Mason, or that the black church has an anti-intellectuality and an anti-spiritualism? Do you plan to publicly correct James White on that?
This is public. Yeah, that was horrible.
But do you plan to use your platform to call him out by name?
I've said some things about that before, yeah.
But do you plan to do it unequivocally now that he is attacking woke church, which I assume you consider yourself to be part of and represent?
It depends how a person defines woke church. That's the problem with the Jeff Durbin sermon, is he didn't really define who he was speaking of. And so you had this lump and people just had to fill in the blank. And, that was part of the problem. It's sort of sloppy there. It was a shame, really. And I'm not sure what any of this has to do with the 400-year prophecy that you can't defend.
Well, here's the thing about the 400-year prophecy. The attacks on Israel are said to increase, which we talked about, but I'm not going to get sidetracked into that. Do you believe that there is a true nation of Israel on this planet right now?
There's a new Israel. There's a spiritual Israel.
Okay, if you believe that, then why is it okay for one of your European friends to call himself a Messianic Jew, and it's not okay for black people to identify as Israel? Why do you identify him a Jew if there's a new Israel?
He bows the knee to Messiah.
But what makes him a Jew if it's not lineage?
Oh, well, you can still be ethnically a Jew. I mean, Galatians 3:28 doesn't say the category of Jew is erased, but we also see from Romans 9-11 that there's two senses of Jew which are met, or two senses of Israel that are met clearly. So we understand that all who are of Israel are not of Israel, but that doesn't mean that you erase the ethnic identity, that it disappears.
Okay, so you can have ethnic Israel. What evidence do you have that they are ethnic, that the European Jews, which again, that's according to their own source, J-Post, I've posted it before and I have it again for you guys. According to their own source, they come from European women. What evidence do you have? What source do you have that says they are the original people of the book and not converts like Arthur Kessler says, and like some of the other people say?
Well, fascinating thing about the Limba, fascinating thing about some of the Ethiopians, fascinating thing about the folks in Yemen, who, if you see them, clearly not white, fascinating thing about some of the Jewish communities that came out of Iran and Iraq. Fascinating thing about them is they all look very different. And so do the Ashkenazi, and so do the Sephardic. Notice those aren't all European origin places. They share within each distinctive gene pool some interesting, distinctive genetic markers. It's a fascinating thing. They have people scattered all over who have things such as Cohen modal type, J haplogroup, all that kind of stuff. But again, that ain't got nothing to do with 400 years.
Oh, it has everything to do with 400 years, because if they aren't the people, then we have to start looking at who are they and who are the real people. All this is tied together. So do you believe that there are a group of people that claim to be Israel that are not really Israel, that could have stolen someone's identity? And what evidence do you have to support that? Or
yes,
not?
There is a group of people who do that, yes.
Okay, who's the group of people that have stolen the identity based on actual proof?
Black Hebrew Israelites.
So you're saying that the Yale map is, are you calling the Yale map that says the original Israelites are in Africa, are you calling the Yale map a lie?
I have researchers by Yale on this topic, and you don't determine genealogy by maps. And there's no such thing as the Yale map. Everything you're saying is nonsensical. You don't know how to work with academic sources. It's rather embarrassing.
Again, you haven't answered the question. The Yale map that I showed, you said you watched my video. The Yale map that I showed, is that a lie or not? When Cambridge University said that slaves that practice Judaism came over here like that. When they said that they were more likely to be rounded up, is Cambridge University lying? Is Brown University lying? Is the University of Michigan lying? Is the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill lying? Are all these universities that document Black Israelites in West Africa being taken as slaves to America, are all of those universities lying? Please be clear.
The sources you mentioned do not agree with your conclusion, number one. Number two, we have a failure to understand the way something published by a university or something written by a student at a university works. When a student writes a master's thesis, it's overseen by supervisors. It does not mean the supervisors or the university sign on to anything written there. Nonetheless, even though that's the case, and so for you to say this university said this or say that is a gross misunderstanding of the way academia works. Even
you
with
are
that,
avoiding the question.
No, I'm directly answering. I usually give very short answers. Notice mine were much shorter than yours. The thing is, even though sources you do mention don't agree with your conclusions, you constantly mishandle sources. You might as well be having stones made of hand the way you handle these sources.
They don't disagree with my conclusions. I've read these sources. The sources are for everybody listening. The links are there. Please read it for yourself so that you can see he's lying, and you can see how many sources mentioned that Israel was Black and on the west coast of Africa before being taken as slaves and scattered around the world.
I'm not sure if I'm cutting, if he cut off. Hopefully he didn't cut off that. The 10 minutes was up there. For clarity, do you have, I want to go again. Let make your answer short. We're gonna go a couple of minutes. Let's go 5 minutes. Let's go 5 minutes. If anybody have any questions from what y'all heard, because we kind of took a little while to get rolling. If y'all don't mind, I'll put them up. If you don't mind, or spending 10 minutes on some questions and answers on Minister Dante and Minister Vocab. Do me a favor. All right, I might be texting you. Do me a favor. Come to the microphone, Vocab. Is there any, just take a couple of minutes. Is there a last, in closing, a question or two that you'd like to bring out to Minister Dante? And I'm asking Mr. Dante the same thing. That you'd like to bring out in closing on this right here, as I'm waiting for some other questions to come in, if you see something on the screen that you're willing to answer. Come on, Vocab, you got the floor.
Yeah, Dante, what is 2019 minus 1619?
Repeat that.
What is 2019 minus 1619? How many years?
I'm on mute, you sir, on Minister Dante.
It would technically be 400 depending on which month you chose.
Okay. What is 2020 minus 1619?
That depends. Now, it depends on how you approach it. I've heard the argument, this is not my personal argument, but I've heard the argument that you still have to serve out a full year to complete the last year's sentence. That is what some Israelites believe. Again, not my personal belief.
What is 2021 minus 1619?
402 years.
Okay. If we approach 2021 and the second Exodus is not complete, will you admit that this is a failed prophecy finally?
I never said the second Exodus would be complete by 2021. Never once. I never said there would be a second Exodus in 2019. In fact, I specifically said we shouldn't expect that. And you read that yourself, that I said that we shouldn't expect to see certain things.
What would it take to convince you that your 400-year prophecy was wrong?
You would have to prove to me that you would have to prove to me that God did not hear us, and that all these things happening right at the close of the 2019 were coincidences. Again, COVID, everything else I mentioned, you would have to prove to me that all this stuff was coincidentally happening at the same time as the awakening and the 2019.
Did you pray in 2018?
I prayed all the time, but I did not expect the curse to be lifted off of Israel until the curse was completed.
Well, you said that God wouldn't be able to hear Israel until the curse was lifted in 2019. So why would you pray to God in 2018 if you know he's not even going to listen to you?
So again, context matters, which you keep stripping out of it. If you read the context of everything I've been writing up until that point, the point was God was not going to hear Israel's cries for their captivity to be end, or them to be saved out of captivity. That's specifically what I was talking about, not that God just doesn't hear people pray.
What do you make of where it says the iniquity of the Amorites has not been fulfilled yet in regards to the 400-year promise that God gave Abram?
That would depend on who the Amorites are.
Who are the Amorites?
That I can't identify in modern terms. Doesn't mean they doesn't exist. God knows who they are. God is keeping track of a lot that we don't know.
Okay, hold on a second. No, I'm sorry. Okay, hold on a second. Minister Dante, I want you to ask Vocab 2 or 3 questions. But before that, who's Israel? That came up 3 or 4 times, Vocab. I don't know why they're pressed on. They want to hear that from you. Who's Israel? Who's modern day Israel today, Vocab? And then Minister Dante can ask you the question. I'm asking this from the people. I know you spoke on it before. I'm mute you, sir. I'm sorry. Oh, I'm sorry. All right, go ahead, sir.
In the most biblically correct way, the Israel of God is the ecclesia of the new covenant. Galatians 6:16. And as for all who walk by this rule, peace and mercy be upon them and upon the Israel of God. These are disciples, members of the new covenant ecclesia. The new covenant ecclesia is Israel in the truest sense. Ethnic Israel may be ethnic Israel, but they have already seen a fulfillment of the promises given to them through Jesus Christ. So we don't attach ourselves to Israel. We attach ourselves to the true Israelite, Jesus Christ.
Amen. Okay, I'm gonna mute you now. No, I'm not gonna mute you, Minister Dante. Come on in closing with 2 or 3 questions that you may have pressing for Vocab Malone.
You said there's an ethnic Israel, and you've accused black people of stealing their identity. What proof do you have that black people stole it versus them stealing it from black people?
I didn't accuse black people of that. Don't lie.
I asked you the question about the identity. Do you believe that there are people claiming to be Israelites that are not Israel, that have stolen other people's identity? You said the black Hebrew Israelites.
Yeah.
So do you have any proof that
not all Hebrew Israelites are? I never said black people, so don't lie.
All right, so let's be more specific.
Yes.
Israelites, black Israelites, that as you call them, we call ourselves Israelites. We don't call ourselves black Hebrew Israelites.
Your book says the black Hebrew awakening.
Again, I just said we didn't call ourselves black Hebrew Israelites. So again, like I was saying, do you have any proof that we stole anything from them and that our identity wasn't stolen from us?
Well, we have another issue here. Not all people who claim to be Hebrew Israelites are black. So that's
not what I'm asking.
Everybody who rolls with the doctrine, whether one West or non-one West, is guilty of the same thing. Yeah.
Prove that we stole it. You're making that we stole it. Prove that we stole it.
Oh, you've just appropriated something yourself that's not yours. Meanwhile, a lot of you are left
prove that it's not ours. How can you prove that it's not ours? Prove that we appropriated, because history tells us we're not the ones appropriating culture. The people's created culture, and we know on the paintings, and we know that based on all of history. So prove that we're the ones appropriating something and not that it was stolen from us. You're not offering proof, you're giving opinion.
Well,
show us the sources.
I'd be down to debate you on this topic. If you want to debate on this topic, I'll challenge you right now to debate you on this topic.
I just want to see the sources.
You will not win. I mean, we have another topic here, and you're asking about something else. But here's what I'll say.
No, I'm asking you who the true people are, and you won't answer it.
I'm down. I already answered, because the true people of God is not based upon ethnicity. It's not based on genetics.
You said there is an ethnic
on
Israel.
Jesus.
They're not you about the true
people. Okay, Dante, they are not.
I didn't say true people of God. I didn't say true people of God. I said who's ethnic. Who's ethnic Israel? I'm asking who's ethnic Israel. I'm not asking who the true people of God are. Who is ethnic Israel?
If you notice, I earlier mentioned communities in South Africa, the Limba. I mentioned communities in Iran. I mentioned communities in Iraq, the Baghdadi Jews, most of whom have left. I mentioned communities in Spain, in that area, the Sephardic Jews. I mentioned communities that came out of Eastern Europe, the Ashkenazi. I mentioned Jews and Israelites from all over the globe who look various different ways. It's not a black or white world.
All right, so here's the question. Here's the question then. Are you telling us right now that Jacob's 12 sons were 12 different nations of people that did not look alike to each other? Because they only came from 4 different women, and 2 of which were sisters. Are you saying that Jacob physically had all those people in all those communities you're referring to?
That's a great question for someone who believes in the 12 tribes chart, not me, who understands population shift.
I don't believe in the 12 tribes chart.
Well, the question you asked, because you don't understand what's going on, the question you asked is relevant to someone who holds the area.
You just named a bunch of communities in a bunch of different locations, and I'm asking you, did all those communities come from Jacob, and did they always look like that? Show me a family that looks like that with all those different communities coming from one man.
yourself? Okay. Okay. The problem here is a lack of understanding. You don't have
on your part.
You don't have populations who look identical to the way they looked 4,000 years ago. And the key was, you mentioned they were in different places on the globe. You end up coming out looking like your neighbors. And that's why you have this interesting phenomenon of Sephardic Jews having similar genotypes as people in South Africa and Zimbabwe. So notice, I don't have a problem with people being black and Israelite. They just got to have the receipts. You don't have receipts. You make blog posts and ramble and call people liars and cut off sources, mishandle sources, and show pictures and don't show other pictures. It's just embarrassing. So
I actually give the links to everything, and you keep leaving that out, that people can go look for themselves, which you guys don't even bother to do. You don't have a list of sources. You just ramble stuff off. You make claims and you try to debate people, and you don't bring any sources. Can we get you, Vocab, to commit to giving a list of 100% of the sources that apologists use to make your points? Or should we still expect you guys not to share sources and only make statements?
You're hilarious, dude. This is epic, though, because you've utterly failed to defend your false prophecy. But Nefertiti showed how you do not always bring sources. She showed how you specifically skipped some. And
she was lying, and she got called out. She got called out about that lie before you shared it. She got called out. And matter of fact, the source that she says I didn't bring out, 4 days we made that accusation. There was a 24-minute video posted of the very source she claims I didn't bring out. So how is it if I didn't bring it out, there's a 26-minute video of it 4 days prior to her making that lie? What, nothing to say? 4 days before? 4 days? She missed 4 days worth of video?
Hopefully y'all can hear me. All right, we're breaking up real bad. We're gonna shut it down. We'll be back. It was definitely a good discussion. Vocab, I appreciate you, Minister Dante. We're gonna comment on it further later on in the week, and I appreciate everybody. God bless. Good night.
Sorry, family. My computer's being a little bit slow at the moment. I got a lot of stuff open. But yeah, that was a very, 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 very interesting debate. Hold up. Yeah, let me take this down. So now that's fresh in everybody's mind. I'm about to go back over it. And something that is very interesting here is, like my man just said, I just realized that Vocab challenged Dante to a separate debate on who is true Israel, and Dante never accepted. What's interesting about that, bro, is prior to his debate with Dante, the Teo twins had challenged Vocab to 2 separate debates, one on who is true Israel and another one on the 400-year prophecy. And to the best of my recollection, Vocab, correct me if I'm wrong, but you turned those debates down, but decided to debate Dante. But with that, I'm going to share my screen and get into my debate notes. Get into my debate notes. There we go. Not as slow, but still slow. Let's take this down, my G. Oh, I had to comment. Super slow. Anyway, I might just talk with the comment up. Oh, let's see if it went down. So the title of the debate was kind of unclear. They were just going all over the place with it. But to the best of my recollection, it had to do with did Dante promote a false 400-year prophecy or something of that nature, right? And like I said, it went all over the place. So y'all can see here, this is what the chat voted. With 20 votes, and they voted that Vocab Malone won the debate. 65 to 35. 65 to 35. That's pretty decisive based upon the chat right there. So I'm going to give my opinion based upon the fact that I have been in over 30 moderated time debates, judges, all the type of stuff. I've been on some of the biggest debate platforms out there, like Modern Day Debates. I've debated in the Soul Vision Debate League. I've debated in a few places. I've only got a few of my debates that you can see on my channel because the place I did most of my debates, Soul Vision Debate League, they take down almost all the debates. So I was able to snatch a few of them, but not all of them, unfortunately. And not even my favorite ones. Some of my favorite ones, but not all of them. But you can see some of them. But with that, I'm going to get into what I think. And you know what I'm going to do here? I'm going to drop the link in the chat for anybody who wants to jump on and give their opinion on this thing. Because I would love to make this a little bit interactive and whatnot. So that's for that link is for anybody who wants to jump on. Any and everybody. Friend, foe, it's all great. Everybody's gonna have a chance to land and take off. You know what I'm saying? But until I see anybody jump in here, I am going to go through this right quick. So the first round I thought was interesting for both debaters. This is a list of all my notes from the round and whatnot. I'm not going to go over each point here. The most about this round from Vocab was that I'm seeing citations coming from the blurbs from the books, or like a citation coming from Dante's website, or I'm seeing a citation coming from blog post, or some kind of post on YouTube or Facebook or something of that nature, or whatnot, right? Or an Amazon description of a book or something like that. I'm not seeing Vocab actually read the book or cite the books themselves. And to me, that was a major mistake that he made, because I think if he would have read the books, he would have been able to make a lot stronger. He could have made the same arguments in a stronger fashion. I'll say that. Very similar arguments in a stronger fashion. He did make some good points that I do think need to be addressed. One, Dante does endorse modern day false prophets, which is Tale Ministries and whatnot, right? However, he does not cite the endorsement, and that is in the book. That is in Dante's literature. He tries to, and I'll get into that in a second. It's important to understand that they believe in the second Exodus. This includes like Tale Ministries and Dante. And Dante must prove he neither promoted the 400-year prophecy or show its fulfillment. And that has to do directly with the title. Did he promote the 400-year, right? And yeah, that's it's. As far as I'm concerned, Vocab had a couple different premises coming in here. One of them seemed sound, and one of them was very fallacious to me. I'll get into that right quick. Let me just make sure no one jumped on right quick before I start running my mouth. You got it. So vocab's premise of linking Dante with Teo is an association fallacy, right? Particularly the way he did it. He didn't have a smoking gun. He was like, oh, you did an interview with them, or oh, you shared somebody's post or something like that, right? I mean, that's a bit of a stretch and whatnot, right? Because I mean, I've interviewed Vocab. Me and Vocab don't agree on everything. Like, there's a lot we don't agree on. A lot we don't agree on. So that's not a good set of methodology right there. However, it wouldn't have been an association fallacy if Vocab actually read Dante's books instead of citing blurbs, descriptions, blogs, and social media posts. Like I said earlier, Teo had previously challenged Vocab to 2 debates, one on who was traditional and a second on the 400-year prophecy. Vocab could have debated the Teo twins. Could have very easily debated the twins. So as far as I'm concerned, without the citations for like the direct citations for the claims he was making, because again, you could say that yeah, you interviewed them and you didn't tell them they were wrong or blah 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 blah. I mean, I've interviewed a bunch of people on Debate Talk for You. That's like, I'm not going to sit there and beef with somebody I'm interviewing. I'm going to ask them questions and let them kind of go on their thing, right? So what happened there was an ad hominem guilt by association fallacy. When the source is viewed negatively because of its association with another person or group who was already viewed negatively, right? So that needs to be understood. But like I'm saying, had he went to the literature, I think he would have been able to clearly make the point that he was trying to make. If you go to Dante's book on the 400 years, Tay was literally mentioned 9 times in the book. And these are all the pages, and these are the page numbers for the ebook, not the physical copy. I don't know what the numbers are for the physical copy, but they're mentioned in the forward. They're mentioned on page 1, page 2, page 101, page 207, page 325, and page 335. And it says some interesting things there, right? You get a couple QR codes to scan to go to their information and stuff like that. But again, Teo writes the forward to the book or whatnot. And they say some pretty interesting things. This one here, I think, is extremely interesting. It says, Teo Ministries became acquainted with Dante around 2009 as we both began to be known in the Christian circles for teaching about Nephilim and fallen angels. Please keep that one in the back of your mind. Also, it says, one of Dante's most popular works is As the Days of Noah Were, a top-selling book with the Christians within Christian circles and on Amazon. Very important stuff to remember, those 2 concepts. And again, Vocab cites this book, but he cites the title of the book, but he doesn't cite anything in the book. He cites the title of Dante's book on the 400 years, but he doesn't cite anything in the book. But I'm going to go forward and show something else, right? You definitely have... Again, this is all in Teo's forward or whatnot, right? They're 400 year and everywhere. The Negro will learn who he really is as one of the chosen of the Most High. Why so many evil things have continued to happen to us as a people, and that the 400 years of captivity prophesied to Abraham occurred to the Negro during the Atlantic slave trade. Get ready to learn what has been hidden from the world for centuries. Teo Ministries. But this is even more interesting. If you go to the page 335 or whatnot, this is where I'm saying you can actually get a citation of Dante literally endorsing them, right? So he specifies here on page 335, subscribe to Teo Ministries on YouTube. Besides my own teaching, they are one of the few ministries that I endorse. Their teaching's always solid, but as we say, you still need to double check everything for yourself. Now, does that mean that he's endorsing every single solitary prophecy that they make? No, but he's literally endorsing them as a ministry and whatnot, right? So he needs to be clear. Like, he does need to be clear on when he does disagree on something that they're saying, because he's literally Again, pushing them is like a sister ministry in his book. Like, again, there's multiple QR codes that send you to their information, but he's literally endorsing them here as well. On top of endorsing them, he cites some of their teachings, which makes it even more so of a double down in terms of making it like a sister ministry, and more of a double down in terms of how he endorses the ministry. And I'll give some examples here. Hold on. Let me double check, make sure ain't no one in the back. While I'm running my trap. I can feel it, bro. I know you was up here. Shout out to the good brother JT, man. How you doing, brother man?
What's up, brother man? And my oh my God, and my comedic voice, but what's going on, man?
Just trying to get this debate review, you know what I'm saying?
In my Robin Harris voice, brother man.
I know that's right.
But,
so what was your thoughts on the debate so far?
So I saw this when it happened. I saw this since then. I've had many opinions about it over this time because I believe this happened in 2020. Went down in 2020, right?
Yes, sir.
Right. My initial thoughts were, especially at the time, I was really annoyed because it seemed to me like the topic was one thing, but it seemed to me that Dante wanted to talk about everything but the topic. Now, he did eventually start talking about it, but I don't know. I see the points that you're making about vocab not citing specific sources where Dante was endorsing the particular worldview.
Mm-hmm.
I get that part. That's scholarship, and that's where that goes. I got that.
Mm-hmm.
Now, as far as my, I guess you could call it anecdotal evidence. I have not read Dante's book, nor do I frequent his page, but I have seen him vigorously defend the 400-year prophecy on Elder Mike's Facebook page. So much so that he basically went ham on Elder Mike, me and some other folks, because we were asking questions about the prophecy, which was really geared toward T-Wo. And Elder Mike eventually took it down. You may or may not have seen that or heard about it, but he eventually took the status down. So based on that, there's no way in the world anybody could conclude that he does not believe in the 400-year prophecy. When he vigorously came to T-Wo's defense on that Facebook page. Now, I knew before then that he, but I'm just giving you some carrots and stuff to go off of. So, but as far as the debate itself, man, it was just frustrating for someone who likes people to stay on topic and debate topic, whether vocab believes black people are the real Hebrews and all that has nothing to do with the topic. And why are we trying to drag him down that particular rabbit hole when the topic is supposed to be 400-year prophecy? So I don't know, brother. It's like, and here we are, 2023, and we got another prophecy. I mean, we got another delay. I guess it's going to be 2020, 2030 now. At what point do people just admit, hey, I missed it. I messed up. I missed it. But
it kind of switched it up a little bit too. Like, so they got it. So I think the Tail Twins got their date pushed back, and then I think Dante is starting to float with the 430-year versus 400-year prophecy.
Yeah, I saw that shift coming. Yeah, to the 430, and this is how I've always viewed scripture when God warns people about setting dates. And it's not just T-Wo or Dante or I mean, the folk in the church been doing this for years. And when they do, I just scoff at it because I know that no man knows the day or the hour, and when Christ will come back and set things, establish his kingdom and set things in order.
Mm-hmm.
But this ideal that, there's going to be some kind of second exodus and mass exodus, just not what scripture teaches. And black, whether it be black people or brown people or yellow people, it doesn't matter. There's not going to be some second exodus. And a bunch of folks leaving one country, leaving the United States and going back to Africa. I guess I'm trying to follow a lot there because maybe you can explain to me.
Yeah, I'm about to get into it when I get into Dante's round, because I'm going to cite some of it here too, because he actually cites Teo in terms of like a teaching that they had to where, and it's mad ironic because in the book here and in the teaching that the Teo twins had, they're saying that they go back to Africa and then go to Israel, but now they're saying Israel's in Africa. Yeah,
that's just crazy. I don't understand. I don't understand that. That just don't make no sense to me. But it's Jesus. And here's a question: is this exodus predicated upon Christ's return, or is it just some exodus?
See, that's the thing, right? Is they try to correlate the gathering and what the church would look at it, like some people look at as the rapture, whatnot, with like a second exodus and try to make it run the same route that the first exodus happened, but in a whole different timeline. So like the same things are supposed to happen from the first exodus, but the time is all crazy and stretched out and all kind of stuff. You know what I'm saying? So, but yeah.
Okay. Well, I'll listen to see what more information, as far as how all this is supposed to unfold. I'm interested to know more. I know I probably heard it already and just don't remember because I've listened to a lot of stuff that I consider to be out there. You know what I'm saying? And so I don't always retain everything, things like that I hear. So yeah, I'll go hang up and listen to see what you.
Oh, bro, no, you can stay on and chime in whenever you got a question. You straight?
Oh, okay, cool. All right,
you straight? No. I'm just gonna run through this right quick because I got a round by round breakdown of what that and I don't necessarily disagree with a lot of what you said. I'm just gonna try to go like so. I'm going through this like if I was debating or whatnot, right? Like how I would take both sides of this thing or whatnot, because like you said, I like watching good debates, like when people like really prepare, they take it seriously, they stick to the topic, they answer the questions, they give the information. Like I like that kind of exchange. And this debate wasn't really like that. That, like you said, it was going left all over the place, right? It was going left so cold, it was going in a circle. You know what I'm saying? So
yeah. And to me, we call it, we call that running interference. And that's what it seem like and feel like. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, 100%. Like when Dante's sitting there talking about like, no, this is just a distraction because Vocab don't want to deal with X, Y, Z. It was like, no, Brad, it really did feel like a whole distraction on your side, though. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, because that's not the topic. Yeah,
right. Yeah, 100%. And he literally said, like, I know, like when you stop in the middle of the thing and said, like, I know I'm not getting to the topic as fast as y'all want me to.
It's like, yeah, bro, you're not. Get to the topic. Because we're here. I mean, it's just like, and I'm gonna shut up after this. It's just like when Berean invited Sakari, Deacon and Sakari to come on and explain from the Bible how he concluded that Mary was not a virgin. The scripture teaches that Joseph knocked her up. Basically, I'm just gonna keep it straight. And some other things he said, I can't remember it right now off the top of my head. And so he was supposed to come up and explain these things, and instead of coming up and explain from scripture, he comes on And then he brings two other goons with him to dump on Elder Mike about something totally unrelated that nobody was interested in. And then by the time he finished, he had to go. He ain't got time to address what he actually supposed to come up there to address. Man, I was hot as fish grease.
I may need to repent for this, but you saying he came through like this?
Don't let me get you, boy. Stop, man. You play. I'm gonna come over next week, punk. Man, y'all some busters. Y'all can't see me, punk.
That's exactly what they did. They came up talking about something totally different. And I was trying to hit Elder Mike. I'm like, Elder Mike, don't fall for it. Don't go down that rabbit hole with him. Don't go down there. They pulled him down the rabbit hole, and man, it was a hot mess, man.
Yeah. Unfortunately.
Well, go ahead, brother. I'm gonna reconnect because I just pulled up to the house. I'm gonna reconnect on a different device.
No worries.
Okay.
I'll look for you. No worries. All right. Peace. So yeah, so he literally does, like Dante literally does cite teachings from Teo in his book or whatnot that he himself starts to build arguments off of, right? And so I think that would have been a stronger way to make the argument that Vocab was talking about, right? Because Vocab was trying to link it together, like I said, by guilt by association, and the only problem, he wasn't wrong with what he was saying. He just didn't cite the right info to back it up, as far as I'm concerned, right? So the way he made the argument was fallacious, but the argument was correct. So if I was judging this debate, I would have to mark off that premise or whatnot. But I would have to go with his other premise where he's saying, like, no, Dante's got to prove either he didn't promote this thing or prove that it happened the way he said it was going to happen, right? So there is that. So going forward, I'm gonna take myself. Well, nah, I'll let it keep rocking out. He cites here that Teo was feeding him information via email, and based upon that information, he was coming off to understandings and teachings based upon like understanding of words like ethnos, etc., 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 which plays into how he understands certain things concerning the Gentiles or whatnot, which is a big deal concerning the book or whatnot. And his argument again, like who's true Israel, etc., right? So it is a big deal to understand that. And Vocab was not wrong in how he was in the argument he was making. He was just wrong in how he was presenting the argument, as far as I'm concerned. Again, QR codes all over the place to scan to link up to Teo and them and whatnot, right? Again, showing it like they're literally on some sister ministry type stuff, and I mean, literally almost like on some business partner stuff with this book, and like with tips, particularly within the 400-year prophecy, right? I'm not seeing QR codes to Teo twins in the other books that I'm reading from Dante. I'm seeing them in the 400-year prophecy book, right? So they're extremely linked in the 400 years or whatnot, 100%. Like Vocab is not wrong in making that argument. He just left the smoking gun on the table, like, and I think it became obvious for Dante that that's what it was, and so Dante was climbing up and was trying not to answer certain questions because it's like, oh, I'm not going to give you info if you don't know it. Then all right, then. But this one's interesting, right? So I'm going to read this section here. Africa reaches out. In early October 2018, those of us that have been preaching the end of the curse in 2019 awoke to news that Ghana and the African Union were inviting descendants of the transatlantic slave trade easy visas and right of abode if we want to return to Africa in 2019. There was also another aspect to the announcement that made it so important. Teo Ministries pointed out that scripture indicates we'd return to Africa before we returned to Israel. The timing of this announcement is what makes it so important. If slavery started in 1619, it would put the end of the 400-year curse at 2019. So this again is a stronger way to make the same argument that the Vocab was making. Dante in his book says Teo is the only ministry he endorses, cites 2 teachings from them, speaks of information they gave him via email, gives QR codes to scan for Teo material, and shouts out the YouTube page. That's for me. That's all the linkage that you need for what Vocab was trying to argue with that, right? And particularly to the point to where he's asking for like, tell me where you have to show me where you disagree because you're agreeing with them everywhere else type stuff, right? To me, this kind of information would have made that argument a lot more viable. One of the teachings Dante points out from Teo has to do with scriptures indicating a return to Africa before Israel, linking 2019 to the end of the curses with Ghana and the African Union's right of abode. Now they say Israel is in Africa. How times have changed. Round 1 going to Dante. Now his whole round was basically not even a premise round. It was more so of a rebuttal round. And to me, that's like a rookie mistake. You got rebuttal rounds for that. Your premise round, your first round, lay down that premise and walk me through it, right? And so your points on the rebuttal were on point. Dante's points on his rebuttal in terms of like Vocab started calling Dante a false prophet because of Dante shared a video. By that standard, everyone's a prophet that shares a video. Oh, that's 100% on point. Like the way he was making his arguments coming back when Dante claims Vocab never read Dante's book on the 40 years, which seems to be the case. Vocab doesn't cite the book. He doesn't go into the book, now that type of stuff. Vocab's focus was on Teo and not on what Dante teaches. That is, as far as I'm concerned, that was correct on a lot of stuff. However, Vocab does get into what Dante says on a lot of stuff, going further into the debate or whatnot. He mentions some stuff from blurbs, like he does mention some stuff on what Dante says in that first round. But in terms of focusing on it, he more so puts the focus on what Teo's saying, right? So I agree with Dante on that point. Now, this is where it starts to get into the nonsense, right? Like, so, but then he's like, all right, now I'm gonna switch it up. Vocab wants to distract people from white Christians attacking Eric Mason. This discussion can't be had without discussing who true Israel is, etc. Who are the true Israelites? Talking about Nefertiti saying the Jews in Africa were white and European. Talking about Damon Richardson saying that the Jews in West Africa are proselytes. Eric Mason saying that the writers of the Bible were black, etc., 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 right? All that stuff was non sequitur, had nothing to do with the title of the debate. Like the good homie was talking about, right? The urban apologists don't agree. Vocab versus Eric Mason. Eric Mason saying that there was 400 years of slavery that started in 1619. I thought that was a legit point. I thought that was something that should have been addressed that I don't think Vocab did address. I don't think it was a major point. Like it wasn't like a major blow, but I thought it was a decent point. But the main focus of the premise that Dante gave everyone was a premise of I'm going to change the topic and obfuscate the point. Dante's argument about the debate being a distraction was non sequitur to the point of the debate and also an attempt to poison the well by appealing to emotion. So I got 3 fallacies all right there wrapped into one argument. Dante further went on to make a non sequitur argument by arguing that the straw men of who the real Jews are based on phenotype and Dante's interpretation of sources. So I got 4 all right there. Non sequitur arguments. I got straw man arguments. I got appeals to emotion. I got attempts to poison the well and whatnot. Shout out to Rue in the chat. Peace, homie. Appreciate you for tapping in. Non sequitur arguments are when the conclusion does not follow from the premises. In more informal reasoning, it can be when what is presented as evidence or reason is irrelevant or adds very little support to the conclusion. I.e., bro, you wasn't talking about nothing having to do with the point. Poisoning the well. To commit a preemptive ad hominem attack against an opponent, that is to prime the audience with adverse information about the opponent from the start in an attempt to make your claim more acceptable or discount the credibility of your opponent's claim. So talking about it being a distraction is an attempt to poison the well. Like, okay, you shouldn't pay attention to nothing to what he's saying because this is just all meant to distract you from something over here, right? And what was the something over here? Eric Mason is being attacked and Vocab's not protecting him from the white Christians, etc. Whatnot. That's an appeal to emotion. This is the general category of many fallacies that use emotion in place of reason in order to attempt to win the argument. It is a type of manipulation used in place of valid logic. Strawman fallacy, substituting a person's actual position or argument with a distorted, exaggerated, or misrepresented version of the position of the argument. Again, so the debates about did Dante promote the 400-year prophecy, the false 400-year prophecy, whatnot. And now he's saying, no, the debate's on who's true Israel. No, that has nothing to do with the debate. It's absolutely non sequitur to the debate. And it's you're just arguing and you're yelling at the wall. You're arguing with the straw man. You're building up a false argument for you to debate against. Has nothing to do with what Vocab's talking about. Round two. This bit here about Dante needs to tell us what post he shared that he agrees with and disagrees with. I thought that was a bad argument in terms of the post and whatnot, right? In terms of like, again, if he could have linked it through the book, I think it would have been a solid argument. I think it would have been a totally solid argument. But the way it was done here, I think it was a weak argument. Does Dante agree with Pastor Omar saying the 400 years ends in 2019? It doesn't matter if he agrees with him or not, right? What matters is what is Dante saying, right? So this concept, did he promote it? Like, so if you, again, Vocab, if you come on my channel, I'm going to promote that, right? In one sense, right? But does that mean I agree with what you're going to say? No. Am I platforming you? Yeah. Does that mean I agree with everything you're saying? No. That's not a solid argument, right? And Vocab knows it's not a solid argument, right? Everything in white I thought was kind of weak. It wasn't like bad, but it was just It was like it was run of the mill. I didn't think it was necessarily the best arguments to make. Now, where he brought out something that I thought was strong is when he went to one of the blogs called The Final Juneteenth, which to me, that's almost like going to a book. Okay, like like you're going to an article that's a bit better, right? That you're going in a better direction with that one, right? But what's important is what is said here, and Vocab leaves a lot of money on the table with this argument. And it would become even more strong if, again, the book is read. Israel's captivity ends in 2019. The key to calling back the Messiah is with Israelites and the end of their captivity. The prayer lines will open up in 2019 when the curses end. Right? That's a big deal. That's a big deal. So at the end of this 400-year captivity, the prayer lines open up. And the way Dante's teaching this, the prayer, like they have, like the Israelites have the ability to call back the Messiah, praying as a nation or whatnot. So we should have seen the return of the Messiah in 2019 with this thing, fam. That's a huge deal. That's a huge deal. Oh, I think my man's in the back still. No. That's a huge deal. And Vocab doesn't really touch on it. He kind of lets it go. But if I go to his book, if I go to page 235 or whatnot, it says this: Christ in the coming slavery. After the Israelites turned Christ over to the Romans to be beaten and crucified the final 400 years, a curse prophesied to Abraham in detail to Moses in Deuteronomy 28 was triggered. Like, so this is interesting. In the rejection of Christ, the 400-year prophecy is sealed. It's going to happen. But it doesn't kick in until 1619. So from 33 AD to 1619, there's this whole pause for whatever reason. Like that would have been something I would have really got into, right? But furthermore, it says this: is it possible that the world hates us because we have the unique ability to call back Christ after the 400-year curse is over? The unique ability to call back Christ after the 400-year curse is over. Fam, I didn't see that return, did y'all? Like, Did they mean to say COVID return like in 2019? Because like I didn't see Christ return, fam. I didn't see Christ return, fam. I mean, if y'all saw, let me know. If y'all saw, put a 1 in the chat. You know what I'm saying? I might have missed it, bro. But I didn't see true Israel, the Negro, so-called the true Israel, the so-called Negro in America come together praying as Israelites and bringing back the Messiah in 2019. I missed that one, fam. I 100% missed that one. Dante's claim is that after 40 years of captivity, the true Israelites, aka the Negro, will be able to call back the Messiah because the curse will be lifted in 2019 and the prayer lines open. Like, that's huge. I don't know how you sidestep that one. To me, the moment I came across that one, I would have been stuck on that argument right there. But shout out to Vocab. He does cite that information from a blog. Vocab never asked the question, did true Israel bring back the Messiah via their prayers being answered after 40 years of captivity? Not once in the debate, and I don't know why he didn't do it. Round 2 going to Dante. I thought Dante made a lot of good observations in this round, in the sense to where, I'll say this, I don't think he answered, like he tried to hand wave when Vocab was bringing up the little bits that Dante did say that he could verify. Like Dante 100% hand waved that, and he tried to sidestep all that. His goal was to not try to give Vocab any information. And he rightly called out Vocab was waiting for Dante to tell him what Dante believes. And you don't ever want that in the debate. You want to know what your opponent believes going in that joint. Like, I definitely would have hit up all the Christian apologists like, hey, we need to chip in to get me a couple books for this debate. And we can all share the books and share the info with all of the, you know what I'm saying? Like, it would have been one of them, but like there's no way I'm going into debate Dante and not going through his literature on this topic. Dante rightly called out like an interesting. He had good counter arguments for the arguments that Vocab was trying to use to connect him to certain information, right? So again, he was saying Vocab shared an information video about European Jews in West Africa. That means he must have agreed with that. But then again, why didn't Vocab share Eric Mason's video post about black authorship of the Bible? He must disagree with that. I thought Dante made some good counterpoints. And I'll say this, if Dante actually ever studied debating and took it seriously, he'd actually be pretty good at it. He'd 100% be good at it. He's just not formally trained in it. Or you don't got to be formally trained, but he's not formally studied it. Let me say it like that, or informally studied at the very least, where you just study how the proper mechanics of the thing and whatnot, how to put the arguments together, how to deconstruct the arguments and all that kind of stuff. Like, if he studied that for a bit, he'd be on point. If he studied how to call out fallacies, he'd be on point. And this is something that was a good point to make, but it kind of backfires and whatnot, because then Vocab needs to be clear about what he thinks Dante believes about the 40 years. And he kind of does. Like, I heard that, you know what I'm saying? Like, again, he's talking about the prayer lines being open, etc. after 2019. The Most High will free Israelites from the land of their captivity. Decent argument. Vocab has to show those European Jews still living in the land of their captivity. I thought that was an interesting argument that Vocab just let rest on the table. And when you let arguments rest like that, it's like being in a courtroom. If somebody makes an argument and you don't address it, like, you're kind of guilty of that joint. And then Dante said the only worldwide slavery was Israel from the west coast of Africa. Like, fam, that was the biggest argument from silence. Like, you got no, like, show that. I've been waiting for people to show me the worldwide aspect of the slavery, yet, like, this going to the four corners and whatnot. Like, I need to see that part. Did we go a lot of places? Yeah. Did we go across the whole world? Nah, fam, that's not how it looked. That's not how it looked. We went over most of it, though. I ain't gonna lie. Dante did a good job in countering Vocab's line of argumentation by giving examples as to where Vocab is special pleading such as sharing social media posts. I thought that was decent. I thought he did a decent job there. Special pleading is applying standards, principles, and or rules to other people or circumstances while making oneself or certain circumstances exempt from the same critical criteria without providing adequate justification. Special pleading is often a result of strong emotional beliefs that interfere with reason. So saying like, you must agree with the post if he put it up, but I don't have to, is special pleading. That's why I keep using the line of reasoning of, well, I've interviewed Vocab before. That doesn't mean I agree with everything Vocab's had to say, right? Vocab's come on my channel. Doesn't mean he agrees with everything I have to say, right? So if the standards aren't applying equally, that's special standards or special pleading, excuse me. Dante makes an argument from silence when he claims the only worldwide slavery was from the west coast of Africa. No proof is shown. Argument from silence, drawing a conclusion based on the silence of the opponent when the opponent is refusing to give evidence for any reason. Round 3. Vocab says, I knew Dante would throw Teo under the bus. I thought that was just, yeah, it could have really hit home, my G, if you actually showed the stuff from the book and how intertwined they actually were. Vocab did bring out a number of things that Dante did say himself. I thought that was good and solid. And these are all the things that he said about that Dante did say, right? Let's just focus only on again, Vocab's argument. Let's just focus only on things Dante said. I like the adjustment. I thought that was a solid adjustment because Dante was making the argument, oh, you're not talking about me, you're talking about Teo now. It's like, all right, cool. Let's just talk about just you. It's not the, like, he's like, let's know what, I know what it's not. It's not the return of Christ. And I know what it is. It's the judgment and the fall of America. That's what Teo tried to prove. Then he's like, he didn't say the Teo part. I don't believe. No, I put that one in there. The 400-year curse pronounced on Israel ends. No, they did say that. The 400-year curse pronounced on Israel ends sometime in 2019. This is the time that brings us into Jacob's trouble. Now is the time to call in that promise. We are coming to the end of the last cycle. This was written to end our captivities in the last days. But the attitude towards Israel shifted in 2019. Dante's official position is that the prayer lines will open in 2019. The only thing you should expect is we can call out to the Most High as a people in 2019. These are all things that Dante said, right? Strong argumentation. Best round I think Vocab had in terms of like laying that down. Something I thought didn't land as far as I'm concerned when Vocab found it racist that Dante associates or equates prisoners and black people. Yeah, I thought, like Dante said, I think he was just reading statistics and whatnot. Sometimes when you're reading stuff and you're live on air or whatever, sometimes words can get jumbled when you read it or whatnot. I sympathize with that, empathize with that because I'm dyslexic, right? It happens to me all the time. So to me, to me, that point didn't land. Vocab was right to stick to what he knew Dante had said for a fact. It would have been much stronger if he cited Dante's book. I stick to that. Vocab himself attempted to poison the well with racism, with the racism question about Dante and prisoners and whatnot. I didn't appreciate that personally, particularly when Dante tried to poison the well himself. So it going tit for tat, I thought that was unfortunate. Dante's whole round 3, as far as I'm concerned, was non sequitur. He didn't ask anything. He didn't talk about anything that had to do with disproving Vocab's argument in terms of, well, he's either not teaching about, or you got to prove you're not teaching about it, or you got to prove it happened the way you're talking about, right? So this whole round is him promoting the thing. So that's an L, right? That's an automatic L right there. This whole round is Dante promoting this thing. Whole round. Dante spends the whole round propagating a belief in the 4-year prophecy. Like it's a whole L right there. You know what I'm saying? Dante spends the hold on, I got it twice. My fault. Now, this is where it starts to get interesting to me because I felt like a lot of money was left on the table in terms of the Q&A round, and personally, I think Dante did his best in the Q&A round. I think he showed some of Vocab's weaknesses as a debater in terms of how he handles the Q&A round, but I thought this was the most interesting round as far as I'm concerned. Vocab started off asking a really good question. What is the 400-year prophecy? And Dante answers based upon the Genesis 15 narrative and whatnot. And then he asks a good question and does not follow up. What was fulfilled during their time in Egypt? Or was that fulfilled during their time in Egypt? Dante gives the answer no, right? That it's like the Septuagint is talking about 215 years here, 215 years. It's 430 years in between Egypt and Canaan and whatnot. And that it couldn't have been consistent anyway because Joseph was a governor in Egypt. So if he was a governor in Egypt, he couldn't be under captivity, whatnot, right? And that one's crazy. Like that one again, is where I think Vocab left a lot of money on the table because if being a governor ends your captivity, or you can't have a consistent captivity if somebody's a governor or whatnot, well, then we have to acknowledge the fact that we've had black governors in this country ever since 1871. In the same capacity, like it would be the same capacity that the Joseph was a governor. So again, well, if Joseph being a governor or being in rulership, etc., that ends the captivity, or that makes it to where the captivity is null for that and void for that time period. Yeah, we've literally had black governors since 1871. So it would have been nice to see Vocab follow up on that. He keeps asking questions about what curses were lifted. Did God hear your prayers in 2018? On Dante's program, did Teo say 2019, etc., August 2019, etc.? Like that one in particular, I thought was a weak argument. If you're not going to go through the book and whatnot, right? And it would have been better to instead of asking him, tell him, okay, like in your book you said this. Is that still the case? Or no, right? I love some good questions. Were like, do you know the definition of the Exodus and the leaving in general? In what way is the recapitulation of the 10 plagues a leaving? I thought that was a strong question. I should have as a red color. My fault. It shouldn't be yellow. And I thought that Dante gave a horrible answer talking about your playing is just semantic games. But like, no, that's a legit question. That's a legit question. Will the 10 plagues happen in the same order? I thought that was a legit question. I don't know. We have documented 9 out of 10. I thought that was an interesting answer. Have they happened in order? We don't know. I thought that was an interesting answer. The locusts attacked Egypt. Who will these locusts attack? The world. I thought that was smart. Good answer. What do you make of the wickedness of the Amorites not being full? Dante answers, depends on who the Amorites are. Vocab, who are the Amorites? Dante, I can't identify them in modern times. Now, this again, Vocab starts citing a couple of books of Dante, right? He cites the 400-year prophecy book, but he also cites the Noah book, right? As it was in the days of Noah, etc. I forgot the name of it. I'll put the picture up in a second. But like, this is a big deal because Dante is saying he doesn't know who the Amorites are. Oh no. Dante gives you a whole breakdown of who he thinks the Amorites are in modern times. And I'm going to go through it thoroughly on a whole nother video, but I'm going to go through a good part of it right here. They got to cover this. If Joseph's governing ends captivity, the captivity ended with the first black governor, particularly if America is Egypt. And again, that black governor was Oscar Dunn in 1871 in Louisiana. Was elected lieutenant governor in 1868 and became governor in 1871 before he died. Again, Vocab never asked the question, did true Israel bring back the Messiah via the prayers being answered after 40 years of captivity? But this is what Dante believes. He believes that the Amorites were a tribe of cannibalistic Nephilim that had 6 fingers and rows of teeth. Where are they now? Well, this could be the title of Dante's next book, From Amorites to Aliens, How Giant Cannibals Became Demonic Greys, by Dante, Minister of the Supernatural. Because this is what he believes. He believes that the departed spirits of these Amorite Nephilim are housed in the bodies of these gray aliens. That their technology to house these Nephilim spirits and whatnot. How do I know? Well, it's in his books, fam. It's 1,000,000% in his books. So when he's saying, I don't know who the Amorites are, no. He believes that their spirits are housed inside them gray aliens, fam. He also has some other beliefs about who they could be in society and whatnot. But this video is getting super long, so I'm not going to get into all of that or whatnot, but I will be citing these books and that information right quick. Well, in another video when I go through this, but you know what? Let me just give you a small taste right quick. Let me just give you a small taste right quick. Let me just give you a small taste right quick. Let me just give you a small taste right quick. Yes, Dante, I've read more of your books than I care to do again. I'm not going to lie, but opposition research is how you get down. So he breaks down the Amorites being giants, etc., and being Nephilim, etc., and a whole tribe there. Well, hold on. You know what? If I'm going to do it, let me get into the right one. Let me get to the right one. I will go through this right quick. I'll just make sure this is under 3 hours or whatnot. So again, as the days of Noah were, right? The sons of God and the coming apocalypse. The coming apocalypse. He breaks down that in number 21, we find that Moses and the army of Israel kills every man, woman, and child of the Amorites. This was one of the tribes that ascended from the Nephilim. In Amos 2:9, we read that the Amorites were giants as tall as the cedars, a small, seemingly insignificant portion of the text that is often overlooked is that Abraham had helped from 3 Amorite tribes to rescue Lot. Usually, when we think of Mamre, we tend to just think of the plain where Abraham lived and met with the Lord before the destruction of Sodom. But Mamre was the name of an Amorite giant. It is the giant that the plain of Mamre is named after. At some point during Abraham's stay in the area, an alliance was formed between him and 3 Nephilim brothers, Mamre, Eshcol, and Aner. So Dante is saying that, again, Abraham was in covenant with 3 Nephilim. Besides being extremely tall and powerful, the Nephilim had 3 other physical features that made them stand out from normal humans. Double rows of teeth, 6 fingers on each hand, 6 toes on each foot. So yes, this is what I'm saying. He believes that the Amorites were giant Nephilim that had rows of teeth and 6 fingers and 6 toes. Keep going. You've already seen this part. I'll break that one down another day. I'll definitely break that one down another day. Getting into Beyond Flesh and Blood, the ultimate guide to angels and demons. Minister Dante Fortson. According to Genesis, the Nephilim eventually died, and many of us believe their disembodied spirits. Many of us believe their disembodied spirits may have become what we refer to as demons. the origin of the Nephilim, individual Nephilim and tribes of Nephilim. You get Sihon, the king of the Amorites, and the Amorites are listed as one of the tribes of Nephilim, according to Dante. In his breakdown, he says this: and if it seem evil unto you to serve the Lord, choose you this day whom you will serve, whether the gods which your fathers served that were on the other side of the flood, or the gods of the Amorites, in whose land ye dwell. But as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. Joshua 24:15. Now this is where it starts to get interesting for you. According to the Bible, the first wave of Nephilim perished in the flood. But what happened to their spirits? They were half angelic and half human. Angels do not die as far as we know, but humans do. Those that were part celestial and part terrestrial had a problem, to say the least. According to the book of Enoch, Noah prophesies concerning this exact situation. Going forward. The Grays, page 235. Again, this is in As the Days of Noah Were. So again, this is in the book that Vocab cited but did not read. There are some that believe that the Grays are demons. Remember we were saying earlier about demons? That the Grays are demons, with the reptilians and the Nordics being different sets of fallen angels. The theory that they are actual fallen angels and demons seems to make sense because of the deceptive nature of all these beings. Again, the theory that they are actually fallen angels and demons seems to make sense because of the deceptive nature of all these beings. So the demons are the spirits of the fallen angels, and the Grays are them. There is another theory that is sort of disturbing but fascinating at the same time. On the television show Stargate SG-1, the Asgard were a race of Greys that created bodies for their consciousness to inhabit in order for them to achieve immortality. The exterior was nothing more than a highly advanced synthetic body. This theory is well known among UFOologists, but not necessarily accepted by all. Some abductees also claim that these beings do not seem to be real, which also explain the lack of genitalia. It is possible that the Greys are some sort of body created to house demonic spirits. Or, excuse me, is it possible that Greys are some sort of body created to house demonic spirits? Ask that very suggestive question and whatnot. So, let me see if I got any more on this. Yeah, I got more, but I'm gonna leave it there for right now. I'm gonna go back to where I was. But yeah, that again, that's one of the things I'm saying. Like if Vocab had read the literature, he'd have been able to just call him out on it right there. You know what I'm saying? And again, something I want to say to both of them that I thought, both debaters that I thought was a downer for the crowd or whatnot, is neither one of them presented a presentation via a screen share or whatnot, right? And Barin gave them the opportunity to do so, and I don't know, like it to me it was very lackluster that they didn't do so. Like, so for instance, like if I'm Dante and I got a book on the 40 years or whatnot, I'm definitely like I gotta come from the angle like, well, the title is that I promote a false 400-year prophecy. Like, no, this thing is real. And look at my book. Bop, 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 bop. Give a whole presentation for my book and be like a whole commercial for my book at the same time or whatnot. If I'm Vocab, I'm doing the reverse and opposite. I'm taking that book and showing him like why he shouldn't get this book because he's wrong about X, Y, and Z. Bop, 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 bop. But that's just me. I thought the majority of Dante's Q&A round was a wash. I thought it had nothing to do with the debate again. And y'all can see the list of the questions I was able to amass and whatnot, but I didn't think it had much to do with the debate at all. Matter of fact, let me take myself off the screen so you can see the full effect of that thing. The full effect of that thing. Some interesting questions I thought that Dante asked for was, what proof do you have that BHI stole their identity? And what's funny is Dante or Dante said black people stole their identity, stole it, like the Jewish / Israelite identity. And Vocab was like, I didn't say black people, don't lie. And he 1,000,000% said BHI. 1,000,000% said BHI. Undeniably. Like if I was Dante, we would have stopped to rewind the tape on that one for him. And he has to ask that question a bunch of, like, he asked the question, what proof do you have that BHI stole their identity? Then Vocab, like, he starts trying to wiggle and squirm or whatnot, and says not all Hebrew Israelites are black. That's, again, has non-sec. Again, he brought up the BHI thing. And then when Dante tries to address it, he's like, well, not all Hebrew Israelites are black. Like, bro, you just hit him with the BHI thing. You just said the BHI were taking the identity. And so Dante's trying to address that part, and you're not trying to deal with it. He had asked that same question a couple of times. And the second time he said, what proof do you have? He said, I'll challenge you to debate on it. And Vocab, like Dante, I don't know how you didn't take that debate for him. Like, if you believe what you're saying, you believe, I don't know how you don't take that debate, particularly when Taylor wanted to debate on that same thing. You could have just debated their info for him, you know what I'm saying? and shared a QR code for him for people to scan, you know what I'm saying? But here's where I think Dante showed where he's not the researcher he brings himself off to be. Like, does he say he's not the DNA guy? 100%, right? I'll give him that, right? But this is a situation when asked on what evidence do you have that says European Jews are originally not converts. It doesn't take much to find out that when Vocab is citing the CMH as his proof for them not being converts, like, that's just bogus right off rip. Like, you can't say that somebody's a convert or not based upon a haplogroup at this juncture. We don't have, like, so you don't have to be an expert in DNA to be like, well, we don't have any of the bodies of the patriarchs. How are you claiming that? That's ridiculous. You literally can't use DNA to differentiate who is a convert, who's not at this juncture. You can speculate, but you can't make it definitive at this juncture, right? I thought that that's a place where Dante left a lot of money on the table or whatnot, and could have exposed things. They were both trying to expose each other for what they didn't know and whatnot. I think the Vocab did a decent job of exposing what Dante didn't know, but I don't think Dante returned the favor in exposing what Vocab didn't quite know certain things, right? Do you believe there are those who say they're Jews and are not? Yeah, I thought that, like, he walked into that one. You know what I'm saying? When he said, yeah, BHI. But he should have pressed that. He should have stuck with that. He should have stuck on that BHI thing since he said it. But not like Dante kind of let it go. I thought he left money on the table with that. Just me. Oh, let me go back one more time. So, who is ethnic Israel? I thought was a good question. And then Vocab gave his previous answer: communities in Iran, South Africa, etc., and based upon the CMH. And it says basically, I'm not opposed to African Americans being Israel. They just got to have the receipts. What are those receipts? You got to know enough to know that he's talking about the CMH. And if you looked at the video that I put up the other day, you know enough to know that you can't really necessarily use it as a receipt. Let me run through this right quick because y'all seen the non sequitur part. I done read that part. If you haven't seen this video, go back and watch it, fam. The CMH versus Yap Plus. Can DNA be used to prove the Bible? Go back and watch this video from the other day, right? So it's not a solid premise that he's building from. It's a speculative premise that he's building from. And Dante didn't call that out. Now, to be fair, Dante just didn't know enough about certain things to call it out. And I'll just leave it there. Let's see what else I got. Vocab was right about phenotype being fluid. And Dante didn't know enough to know that the argument he was making about, like, well, no, they can't really be Jews because they're not black or whatnot, or that basically, how can Jacob's children look in different color than Jacob would? Now, the Tail Ministries argument, right? Again, he's not understanding how DNA works and how phenotype works. And so that's a major L right there. But he is showing why he's not the DNA guy. If you get into certain sources, like if you really get into his books, you see he's not the history guy. You see he's not he's not the researcher he's claiming to be, but he is entertaining. I'll give him that. And again, with the votes that I took, y'all were saying 2 votes to 1, basically, that Vocab walked away with that thing. And I will have to say this, I agree with that. I agree with that assessment. I think that even though I think one of his premises was faulty, I'm still saying that. I do agree. I do believe that it could have been a really strong premise had he gone to the books. But his second premise was basically like Dante has to show that he did not promote the false prophecy or it had to happen the way he said it did, right? And again, Dante literally 100% was promoting the 400-year prophecy within the debate. So there's that check mark. And did it happen the way he said it was going to happen? Again, like Vocab cited it. He didn't go in on it hard, but he did cite the fact that, like, again, all like a lot of stuff that didn't happen, but mainly, right? Again, after 2019, the prayer lines will be open. They'll have the ability to call back the Messiah. I wish he would have pressed that hard, but again, that's a major point because that's the way Dante said it was going to go down. 2019, prayer lines open up. We get to call back the Messiah. Bada bing, bada bang, bada boom. Definitely did not happen. Definitely did not happen. Definitely did not happen. But with that, family, we are running up on almost 3 hours of this thing. I think I'm going to shut it down right there. I'm going to check the chat right quick to see if I got any questions. Hold on. What was that? My G said I was blocked off Ren TV for the Serpentine doctrine I follow. Hey, bro, I was blocked off Ren TV for that. I wasn't even given a reason. I had Elder Mike on here, and the next thing I know, the next day I can't no one see my stuff in Brand's chat. So don't take it personal, I guess. Let me see what else I missed here. Yeah, 1,000,000%. That's his claim to fame. Talking to boomers about Nephilim before he was on YouTube. Man, say that. Say that. Let's see. I don't really see any questions in the chat. So with that, family, I appreciate y'all. I hope you get my assessment or whatnot. I hope it makes sense to you. I do definitely think that Vocab won that debate. I think he could have won by a larger margin. And I do think that Dante could be a formidable debater, actually, if he put some actual time and work into it. I really do. That's real talk. But I do think his argumentation and methodology in this debate were very sloppy. Even like the Vocabs were sloppy too. Don't get it twisted. Like I've moderated 6 of Vocab's debates, and that's the poorest debate I've ever seen him have. But I do think he handily won. Which is also why I don't think Dante wanted to debate Vocab on who is true Israel. Like, if you're in Dante's lane and in Teo's lane and this whole Darbyite lane and whatnot, why would you not want to debate that with Vocab of all people? Why would you not debate that with Vocab of all people? I don't know, just food for thought, fam. Food for thought. But with that, family, I appreciate y'all for coming out. Appreciate you for your interaction. Appreciate you for your thoughts, comments. If there's anything I said y'all disagree with, let me know what it is in the chat. Let me know what's in the comment section. If there's something you think I missed, let me know in the comment section. If you think I'm being biased, all them kind of things, let me know what time it is, fam. But with that, family, I say peace and love.
I was shocked that Dante was next on the chopping block. They hit Dante. Then they hit me. which is fine. And now, Benaya, who's next? Who's next? That's my next video. Who's next? Who's next? Who's next? Who's next?
Next. Who's next?
Did he ever hurt
next?
you?
I got milk, baby.
The IBF middleweight champion of the world, James Lights Out.
That one got on. He got down hurt a little bit.
Oh my God!
It's over.
He's down. He's hurt. Will they stop this fight? Tony trying to finish him off. The towel is thrown in.
I'll tell you.
Threw the towel in.